Maverick News, the antivirus program for your mind. And now, the Freedom Reporters.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Maverick News Channel. We have a special program lined up for you tonight with some special guests. Leo, Mouth of the South, brings along some friends. Paul Hartman is back. And we have Glenn Wells and Neigl Magnusson. They're both from out in Vancouver. They were here 1 week ago. And as you know, they run the marijuana substitution program, which is designed to help get people on hard drugs off of hard drugs by substituting marijuana, which much of which they give away for free out in Vancouver. So they'll be back. But tonight it's all about you guys, because you will be able to call in and ask these guys questions. So that's the way it's gonna go down here on the Maverick News Channel tonight. So stay with me. I'm going to put the video link out there too, I think. But anyhow, we'll get all this fired up and figured out on the technical side so that you guys can call in and join the conversation. I will be right back after this with our first two guests of the evening.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, I'm back, and joining us live is Leo, Mouth of the South.
Yes, sir. Live from the CIA headquarters of my son's basement. This is his basement apartment.
Welcome back. And here's Paul Hartman. Welcome, Mr. Hartman.
Nice to be here, Rick. Nice to be here, Leo.
Thanks for having me so soon.
So I'm going to throw it over to you first, Leo, so you can kind of maybe tee things up for people. I'm hearing like some echo feedback stuff. Does somebody, that's weird. Does somebody have a speaker on?
Oh, you know what? I do. Wait. I got
on your phone, maybe.
It stopped, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, wait a second. I'm going to turn it back on. I'm going to... Yeah, 1 sec. Look at me, eh? I know nothing. I have nothing, and I'll like it. Okay, there we go.
Technology.
Right. So I already kind of let people know what we're doing tonight, but maybe you can just in a little more detail explain for people, Leo, because, you know, in a way, this is kind of your show because you're bringing all your friends along and helping us out here.
They're not my friends. I don't even know these people. I paid them to come on the Maverick show. Checks in the mail, by the way.
Yeah, still waiting for the interactive.
So what we have here is a bunch of pot activists that are actually doing good with marijuana. We got Mr. Hartman that's actually came on the show talking about how the marijuana helped him in his struggles his whole life, right? That's what we're going to get into with me too, the struggles of my life and where I am today, where I was not very long ago. A couple of blinks, was not a very nice place, but where I'm at today, look what I have, right? And I owe a lot of it. I owe it all to pot, actually. I really do, and I feel that way because it saved my life, right? And when Neigl we'll wait till Neil and Glenn get on. I don't know what they're doing right now, but
Yeah, they're not due here until 6:30, so we have
Oh.
20 minutes or so.
yeah, I got 20 minutes. Yeah, so it's helped me. Believe it or not, a lot of people go, how can it help you? I'm on charges right now. I'm on bail. Okay. And the funny thing is, like I say, it helped me, but for 27 years of my life, I've been on a bail condition, a probation order, uh, prison. Okay. Uh, and I still feel it's helped me because you know what? In the long run, look at what are you doing over there, Mr. Hartman? So,
Oh, wait, what?
what? Well, we can't say what it is because they might ban you on this channel. But it's helped me, believe it or not. And people say, "How can it help you?" I've been like I said, through the criminal courts. I was a very violent kid growing up, very violent. Where I'd walk down the street and we'd make bets with my buddies on which way I could twist your nose to the left or to the right. It was sickness, right? And the cannabis actually helped me bring me back down to calm. Okay. I'm not aggressive. I'm not passive. I'd say I'm assertive, right? I'm in the middle. I could flip over, but I don't. There's a time and there's a place for everything, right? Help me think. It did change my life. How about you, Paul?
Well, it was one of those things that my brother Phil gave me my first joint in 1966, and I was 13. And at that time in Los Angeles, the trend was all kinds of pills. People were just taking anything they could get their hands on, and they were worried that I would kind of fall into that, right? So weed was given to me to fill a void that was being filled by some very nasty things in Los Angeles,
Mm-hmm.
and including the early carnations of methamphetamine, started up back then. So, and then I think the logical stuff too that happens too as you're a teenager can kind of calm some of the teenage angst, but scientists say no, the developing brain should be unmolested until you're 19 or something.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I went from, I don't ever call myself a hero, but some people say I went from zero to hero status, right? From cannabis. I'm very well known in these parts. I'm very well known in the country when it comes down to the talk of cannabis, uh, the things that I've done with it. Okay. Growing up as a kid, like you said, everybody, doctors, the police, school teachers, we were all lied to. You smoke marijuana, you're going to go crazy. You're going to do a Charles Manson on somebody, and that's game over, right? We were lied to our whole lives. It kind of sounds familiar with the jibbity jabbity and all that crap. We can't talk about that on here, but the same thing the government just did to everybody by lying to them, right? My whole life I was lied to.
Yeah, I always felt like we were owed an apology for all those lies,
Well,
I mean,
even family, like I got straight a couple of brothers. There's six of us. Four of us were not so straight and narrow. The other two are straight and narrow. One's military for 33 years. The other one owns his own business. But they shunned me. A lot of people shunned me in my own family because of cannabis, right? Cousins, uncles, aunts. Oh, you're a dummy, this and that, right? And in the end, I was no dummy. They seen what was going on, right?
I think the big game changer for a lot of people was when the talk of its medicinal powers started up, and then people experienced it. I did with prostate cancer, and now I'm doing skin cancer with it. So it's and you think, like guys like Bob Marley, they said, it's for the healing of the nations, and then it literally is for the healing of the nations. You go like, what? Wow, did I misinterpret that? Its history and uses paved the way for a lot of lack of suffering in relationship to treatment of some horrible issues, you know?
Well,
So they,
I would never have met you, Paul, if it wasn't for a book signing for Dr. Sam Alecci up in
Yeah. Yeah.
outside of Toronto. I would never have met you until that book signing, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
and he was a caregiver for Montel Williams. He played Elf in the movie Elf, one of the
Yep.
elves, right? Sam's a very nice, great character, right?
Incredible. Like he
Incredible.
gave me all my oil for my prostate treatment.
Well,
And,
at least
and he literally would give away more than $20,000 worth of oil a month.
Well, at least, yeah, Lisa Ling, I think it was from National Geographic, did the
Yeah.
right. Remember, he was on the cover of National Geographic, and they did that video of his
Yeah.
farm, right? Because he was one of the first medical growers, Rick, and he lived up on Stave Lake Road, I think it was, outside Mission, BC. And he had this farmhouse, and it was love. You want to see security? You're out in the middle of nowhere. There's nobody around you. He had this fence around his house with barbed wire and everything, right? And he says, "Why don't you come up to the farm, Leo?" So I go up to the farm, and I'm like, "Wow." Lo and behold, Glenn Wells, which is pretty funny, he's coming on later. Happens the other day we're talking. I said, "Yeah, Sam Alecci." He says, "I never knew Sam, but his grower, Michelle, he's sort of dating her." And I laughed. I said, "I met Michelle before out at his farm, right?" And we gave her a ride home out to Maple Ridge, where she was living right at the time. And he said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, I know who she is." Right. So, yeah, Dr. Sam Alecci helped a lot of people out. He gave a lot of awareness. And another one is Alfred Newman. Do you know Alfred?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Alfred's a good friend of mine, and I did a video on him, and he's up just past or before Peterborough. And I went to his house, and I did a video with him. Jack Congo, another one. These guys have helped so many people battle cancer, different various cancers, Rick, on the medical aspect of it. These guys are geniuses. Okay, if you get cancer, unfortunately, I hope you never get cancer, but if you do get cancer and you want to go the medical way, these are the people to ask. Paul Hartman, Jack Congo, Alfred Newman, Glenn Wells, Neil Magnusson, guys like that, because they know. Okay. Rick Simpson's another one. Look at Rick Simpson. Look what he's done.
Yeah, it's been incredible, what the pioneers in Canada have done, with it. It is absolutely amazing what happens when you go through a course of oil treatment. It changes you so much. Its anti-inflammatory powers go right to work, and it's viral repression and antibacterial stuff, and you can get to this place where it actually, instead of the drug really getting you high, it removes so much inflammation from the brain that it actually clears your thought, and you're going, what the hell is happening to me? Like, this doesn't even make any sense from the place of smoking it and getting high.
Yeah.
And then the results of what happens to you, when I got the first report that I had no detectable cancer, that was 45 days into my treatment.
Wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you, when you're talking about the oil, what exactly is the oil? Is this CBD oil?
No, it's FICO, what they call full extract cannabis oil. And Sam was extracting with CO2. So he was getting a super clean product that had no petrochemical byproducts left in it. And it was absolutely beautiful in terms of its qualities, right? And you're trying to take 1 gram a day, which is a pretty aggressive thing to do with it. And, what I would do is I would take my suppository at night before I went to bed, maybe an hour or so. And then in the morning, I'd wake up pretty fucking high. And I would try to eat another big glob or two of it during the day. And for the first 30 days, I was tapped out. I mean, I'd sit down at the computer to do something, and all of a sudden it'd be 8:30 at night, and I'd be like, well, where the fuck have I been, And then at 30 days, it was like somebody cleaned out the attic. And Dr. Ira Price and I had a talk about it. And he said, well, you get viruses that get inside the blood-brain barrier, and as your immune system ramps up and kills some of them, they put out neurotoxins that cause inflammation, and those neurotoxins cause anger, fear, depression, and anxiety. Right. And all of a sudden, all that inflammation's gone because of the antiviral and anti-inflammatory action of the cannabinoids. And you go, wow, this is like just amazing. And then all of a sudden, too, at the same time, you've got its metabolism regulating stuff goes into effect. And, if you had like hypoglycemia or even diabetes, it helps curve that and flatten it out. It's almost like you get reset. Right. And in that 90 days, it's like you reset your body and you start out at homeostasis, a level plane again. And you can go back to abusing your body.
Wow.
True. Very true. Especially for inflammation, right? In the edible form, you eat a part of a cookie, okay, as an edible form, and that's made with the oil. So you could, people make butter. They got butter machines. You could use coconut oil. And here's a story for you, a true story. I had a vape lounge downtown Windsor where you could come in and smoke this and that, right? And I had a butter machine there, and I put an ounce in the butter machine, decarbed it, put it in, and I got the oil. I took 1 teaspoon of that oil, and there was probably enough for 20 teaspoons in there after I was done. Of coconut oil, because that's what we use for the base to break it down. 1 teaspoon in a hot chocolate, Rick, and I'll probably never do that again. I woke up stoned. I'm telling you, I woke up stoned. Everybody, there was 10 of us in there, so we all had a hot chocolate, right? Yeah, perfect. I went home. I went, holy shit! Best sleep I ever had. Woke up, no sore muscles. I go back to my vape lounge, open up, and I was still stoned. People were coming in for the night before, going, I'm still stoned from last night. I can't believe it, right? It worked wonders. That's for sure.
So what kind of cancer did you have? You had prostate cancer, Paul?
I had prostate cancer. Yep.
And you didn't need an operation? You just...
No, I knew before the biopsy that I had it, right? I had read up and studied on it, and my brother had it, my oldest brother. And so after the biopsy, when the report came back, I had caught it really early. So, and it wasn't outside the prostate and real slow developing and all the things you want to hear, right? And and I got diagnosed in Saskatoon at a prostate cancer clinic there at St. Paul's Hospital, I believe. And they were real nice. And because I had a plan, they just like they give you the options they're allowed to give you. We can remove it. We can put radioactive beads in it. We can, give you hormone treatments and radiation and chemo. We can, and I was like, nope, not doing any of that. And at the time, cannabis oil wasn't legal yet. So I just said, I'm doing diets and these mushroom extracts. And then when I got the diagnosis, I told them, I said, well, I plan on doing cannabis oil when it finally came back. And they said, yeah, you've got, they took 13 samples and found cancer in 1. So I was pretty lucky there.
Yeah. So within, what'd you say, 30 days or 45 days?
45 days. Yeah. I got an all clean test.
And he's not alone, Rick. If you do the research on it, Alfred Newman's another one who had cancer, and he was going to die, plain and simple. And he got the Rick Simpson oil. A lot of people with ailments in cannabis. Okay, it's crazy.
Our beloved comedian Alan Park from the Royal Canadian Air Force.
Right.
He had stage 4 prostate cancer. They sent him home to die. They said, it's in your skeleton. We can't do anything for you. He discovered the cannabis oil stuff online, and he started making it himself. And like his PSA, like I had cancer at 12.7. His PSA went all the way up to 1200.
I remember that.
And he knocked it all the way down to 2. And he bought himself 7 more years. That if he had gone the traditional route, he would have been dead in a year. Like easy.
Another
Very
one
easy.
from my neck of the woods, Kim Hebert. I went to her wake while she was still alive, and she worked at the St. Clair College, and all these people came together, and she came to me and she said, "What about oil, Leo?" So I was giving her the oil for free. She had her living wake. That's been 10 years now. She's not dead. And she had a brain tumor. Okay.
Yeah.
The tumor metastasized. There's nothing there anymore. It's like,
yeah,
what's going on here?
Works really good on brain tumors. Like I knew another guy at a clinic I was going to, and he got one, and he got through 2 full big syringes of oil, and the tumor was gone. And it was about the size of a grape when he started, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty funny now that, like I said, you go from zero to hero. Dr. Hand, the head of her oncology here in Windsor, they know exactly who I am. Okay, I can't count how many times I've been into that cancer clinic to give people, okay, free oil. I can't count. There's not a number I could put on it. You got cancer, people are reaching out to me, right? And so, I love it, actually. I do. I just like helping people today any way I can.
Yeah, that was like Sam said, most of the time he would get to people when they were just like raisins,
Yeah.
And then they were supposed to be dead in days, and they start in on the oil, and a month later they're still alive and they're talking and moving around, and then 3 months later they're home.
It's who's to blame is Big Pharma at the end of it, because they've been hiding this. It's like I stated before, it's in the book of Chinese medicine. It's an alien plant. We knew about this. People knew about this plant thousands of years ago. Okay. And they suppressed it from the people because why? It helps the people. It didn't turn me into Charles Manson. I went from a kid that was doing armed robberies in Vancouver just for sport. I wasn't a drug addict. I liked the feel of the chase. Okay. And I was addicted to the rush. That was my drug of choice, was the rush. Okay, I liked it when I had helicopters and police cars and half the force looking for me. I got a hard on when that happened, right? So cannabis helped me out. Believe me, it did. I should be in jail for a very long time, like the rest of my life, for the shit that I've done.
So can you tell us how you got involved in the activism, Leo?
Well, it started out, wasn't activism for me. I was in, what we say, just after high school. I was a boxer, right? So I was very aggressive growing up. Before the word concussion even came out, in the movie Concussion even came out, I probably had 200 concussions and didn't even know it. You got body concussions, head concussions. At 14, 15 years old, I won the Ontario championships in the welterweight division. By the time I'm 17, I win the Detroit Golden Gloves. Okay. I had no fear. I would jump on a city bus and go to, we're talking in the 80s, 1987. You got Young Boys Incorporated and all these street gangs in Detroit. I'd jump on a city bus and go over to Kronk Gym or the Police Athletic League gyms and go spar with some of the toughest people in Detroit, right? And fight with some of the toughest people in Detroit, and jump back on the bus and come home, right? So I had no fear. I started selling weed around 18, 19 years old. And I never knew about the medical properties back then. This is 1989, right?
Yeah, it'd be another 10 years before that stuff would start to come to the surface.
Well, we were in the dark, right? About the medical values of it, right? But me, I was, like I said, I chase for the thrill. That bridge is 300 feet tall, okay, I would do a backflip off the grade school roofs. I had no fear, no word of a lie. I'd get up on the goalpost, do a backflip off it. People see me do backflips off of bridges. I still do backflips at 53 years old. Okay, I was, if you told me I couldn't do it, I would do it anyways, right? I'm lucky to be alive. Okay, so I started smoking cannabis because every weekend in Windsor, you were down here in the 80s, right, Rick?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, they call this the little Tijuana of North America.
Mhm.
Okay. When the Americans is 21 to drink on their side of the border, but 19 over here. It was like the gangs of New York. You want to see fist fights. I'd go out Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and punch somebody out all 3 days. Right. Then I started smoking pot. I calmed down. I went from a level from beyond 10 down to about a 4, where I didn't want to fight anybody anymore. I didn't mind. I didn't mind getting hurt. I didn't want to get hurt anymore. I didn't want to hurt anybody anymore. Right. Everything started to make sense to me right after I started smoking cannabis. But the medical values didn't come for me till around 1992, 93. I'm writing a book on my life, right? So far, it was a young life. I was only 23 years old, on what cannabis done for me, because I was out drinking. Fuck, I was probably selling $10,000 a week in weed by then, right? Every week. So my life was sit in the strip clubs with my buddies, and even if it was $3,000 a night, who gives a shit, right? And drink our faces off. I was becoming a full blown alcoholic. As soon as I started smoking the weed, I stopped drinking. I didn't need the alcohol anymore. And some of them we even drink today, right? So that changed my life for the better, big time.
Yeah,
And then
getting off alcohol is great.
And then how did you end up opening the store, and what led to your charges?
What got me to open the store was a couple of things. Everybody was opening stores at the time, right? Legalization was on the way. And it was very risky for me because in 2008, I got caught with a suitcase full of weed coming back from BC, and ended up getting 14 months in jail and $2,200 fine and 3 years probation, right? All this crap, right? What happened was they had me over the barrel in Thunder Bay, and it was an Easter weekend, and they wouldn't give me bail. So what happened was, took 3 weeks. I'm in the Thunder Bay bucket. They call it the DJ, right? And what a shithole this place was, but it is what it is. 3 weeks, finally, they come to me. The prosecutor says, well, if you sign a waiver, which means I plead guilty, because where I was, the DJ, Thunder Bay, now for marijuana in Thunder Bay, I'd probably get penitentiary time, right? So I don't have no problems going to the pen, but I'm not going to Stony Mountain Penitentiary. That's in Manitoba. For starters, it's one of the most violentest penitentiaries in the country, and they force you to buy a body bag when you go to that penitentiary, Rick. It's $50, comes out of your canteen for a body bag. So I signed a waiver just to get back home to my family, but that means that I signed a waiver that I plead guilty in a Windsor court and take it from there, right? So it was out of my control at the time. So I had a lot of risk going on, right? Especially being convicted in 2008. I started the 420 Festival. First, it started off with the store, started off with a vape lounge on Chatham Street East, a block and a half from the police station, a half a block from the casino. Okay, and I got a vape lounge where you could come in, you bring your own product, and you could use my machines. I charged a cover, okay, to get in the door, and you use my machines, bongs, vaporizers, whatever, right, under the medical clause, whatever, right. Well, next thing you know, I got the Killers, the rock band, the Killers. You've heard of the Killers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I got guys from the Killers in my place getting high. I got Willie Nelson's band in my damn place getting high. I got every hockey team in the world, the Russians, the Swedes, the Finns, the Canadians, the Americans. I got pictures of all this shit. So what was going on is somebody at the casino, these big bands were all coming, Dancing with the Stars. I'm at work. My wife calls. She goes, "You wouldn't believe who's in here." I said, "Who?" "It's Val from Dancing with the Stars." I said, "Who in the hell is Val from Dancing with the Stars?" Right? But they were coming from to play at Caesars, right? So one of the guys at Caesars, they're like, "Oh, where do we get high in Canada?" Because it wasn't legal yet, but everybody could smell it was coming. So they'd say, go see Leo at the vape lounge, right? So they would come to the vape lounge to come and see me, right? And I got tickets to just about every show in town, right? Yeah, pretty awesome time, I'll tell you, right? So then the stores, this is 2015, 2015, because when was the third elected? 2016?
Yeah, around there anyway. But yeah.
Okay, that time frame, right? Everybody's, oh, he's going to legalize marijuana. I said, well, when he does, I'm opening the store. So obviously, I threw my vote towards the Liberals, which was a big mistake now, okay, because I would never have did it the way legalization is. We'll get into that topic. It's legalized. So what I did is I went to the city hall and I said, I'm going to open up I went right down to the city hall. I should have recorded this, Rick, because if I had it on tape, there would have been a lot of people getting fired at City Hall right now. I went down to City Hall. I said, I want to open up a marijuana store. They said, well, there's no law that says you can't. I said, okay, I'm going to. Can I sell edibles? There's no law that says you can't. So I got a business license. I paid for a business license. I got the business license. That's funny. It's funny we're talking about the business license because I just found it today in my truck. So I got a business license, which is still good till 2023. Okay, we're in 2023 now. So I got a business license. I rented out a place, put the business license on the wall, and I went to town, right? And it was a great thing for anybody in commerce with cannabis because they were just, I was getting bombarded by people with cannabis, right? Everybody wants to bring it to market somehow. Well, bring it to me, right? A lot of it was on consignment, but I ended up paying for it in the end, right? Because I'm that type of guy, right? Nobody got burned. And then I opened the store. And when I opened the store, Charlie from Fox 2 News was over here interviewing it. Alfred Newman came down and all kinds of people were coming to Windsor. And I had it in this plaza, which is maybe 300 feet from this room that I'm in right now. Okay. And from my son's bedroom, the next plaza over. So why would you put it in that plaza? I said, because this is my backyard. Okay. And I'm born and raised in this neighborhood. Okay. So why would I put it anywhere else? So when I did it, this was October 18th, 2018. As soon as they legalized it, the day after they legalized it, I was open, ready to go. Let's roll. The police are directing traffic on Tecumseh Road, Rick. I've never seen anything like it. I had a lineup of 400 people waiting for the doors to open. When the police finally busted me 21 days later, they charged me with 1 count of possession, 1 count of trafficking. I said, are you sure about that? Because I had over 7,600 clients in 21 days. And you came in and you filled out a medical form. The cops had all those medical forms, right? I said, well, if the police said, we're being nice with you. So if you do the math, you get a calculator, 7,600 people in 21 days. That's how many people came through my door. Where the Sarducci's Plaza is.
7,600. In how many days? 21?
21 days.
That's awesome. I love it.
What's those numbers, Rick?
So that's like 362 people a day.
Every day.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'd open up at 10 in the morning. There'd be a lineup of 50 people waiting to get in, right? So when they finally came, as I was still open, our mayoral race was going on. So they left it alone because they could have probably toppled the mayor, right? Could have took a lot of votes away from them at the time, right? So they let it go for 21 days. And when they finally came in, there was an article on CBC where there's a child's food bank in Windsor, Kids Food Bank, that was closing up because they didn't have any food. I said, oh, yeah, well, guess what? Compassion House, my business. I went down there. First, I went to Zares. They matched me buck for buck. So I grabbed, I don't know, $5,000 worth of food. They matched me buck for buck, another $5,000 worth of food. And we filled $10,000 worth of food into the kids' food bank. We kept it open. CBC did a video. It went viral. Okay. I don't know, the headline said pot activist saves the food bank for the kids, right? These are our kids in our neighborhood. Okay. They got to eat, period. And I said, not on my watch. The money that was coming in, I could have saved a lot of things. Okay. And that's where it started. And then when they finally busted me on the second time, I said, you know what? I got so much product. I got $1 million worth of product just laying around. I'm going to give it away for free. Wait a second. Not for free. How about if you bring me a canned good, some non-perishable food item? We'll do that. Then we started the coats for kids, toy drive. You should have seen the shit, Rick, that was going on in the city. Now, $1 million worth of weed for $1 million worth of food, and I only have one truck. Guys were coming with their trucks. We're loading them up. It was the food banks were so overwhelmed they didn't want to take it anymore because they had no place to put it. And not just the food, right? Not just the Windsor Mission. We're talking the Salvation Army, Windsor Mission, the Kids Help Center, the Women's Welcome Center, Brentwood Recovery. Okay, truckloads of food, the Brentwood Recovery. Okay, and it was brutal. And you know, I was right in the middle of the media, and people were going, "What are you doing, Leo? What are you doing? You know, you're looking to get busted." I said, "I really don't care. If I could wipe out hunger in my city by using cannabis as a theme, something that's, you know, the number one, number two killers is alcohol, tobacco, by the way, right? By using something that don't even kill people, cannabis, I'm on it." Right. So I stirred a big pot of shit, and I made a lot of people look bad in the city at City Hall, this and that. But you know what? I'll do it again in a New York minute. So finally, when I went to court, when was it, 2020? I think it was. Finally, I went to court on the first charge. They had 4 co-accused that were working behind the counter. Now, these kids they weren't kids, or everybody had to be 19 or up, right? They were bent over the barrel, and they're thinking, "Oh my God, I'm going to go to jail." I said, "You're not going to go to jail, period." The Crown offered me a deal, said, "We'll give you a $20,000 fine." I said, "No." I said, "I'll go to jail for 20 grand. Okay. I got more time than I do money. Okay. And I'll go for 6 months. I don't give a shit for 20 grand. You're not going to get 20 cents out of me. How's that sound?" Right. "Well, what do you think you should be?" I said, $500. They came back at 10 grand. I said, "No, 2,500. Nope. They wanted 10 grand. They're fixed on it. So I went in front of the deal was plead guilty to a 4,000, or wait, it was, what was it, $6,000 fine. And I said, "Yeah, I'll plead guilty to it, but the 4 co-accused walk right now. Charges dropped. Okay. Everything's absolved." Okay, sentencing's this day, and they want to do a pre-sentence report. Well, everything was on Skype at the time because, you know, the scamdemic, right, was just the way we're talking right now. And I got the judge, my lawyer, the Crown, everybody. The judge took 2 weeks to review everything, and he came back. He said 6,000 is too much, and he made it 4,000. And I'm going, I was willing to. I said, the Crown, if they would have just shut their mouth, they would have got 5. Right? They didn't. The judge thought it was too much, right? So lo and behold, okay, after that, the court thing was done. I went down and signed the paperwork, right? The OPP come to my house, and I got to turn myself into the OPP station. So for fucking what now, right? Nobody's saying anything. Whatever. So I go down here. Well, they hit me with proceeds of crime now. So that's what I'm up on right now, is the proceeds of crime. Because there was Interact, right, in internet banking and all kinds of shit. Even my own bank, before the truckers had their bank seized, you should have seen the shit going on. I go to my lawyer, "What's this about?" They said, "Well, you got $750,000 in a bank account." I said, "Like fuck, I do. That was yesterday, right?" And I went to the bank, and I've been with this bank for 30 years, Rick, and they made me close my accounts, and we don't like the way you do business. Well, I like the way I do business, right? I really do. So they made me withdraw all the money, do this and that, right? So I withdraw the money. Obviously, the money in the bank wasn't mine. I had to pay everybody back along the way, right? Lawyers, you name it, right? Like I said, everything was on consignment, but I still had to pay people back. I never stiffed anybody, right? So at the end of the day, I'm happy with the way things are going. Like I said, I'm still before the courts on the proceeds of crime. I'm not, you know, I'm looking through the disclosure, and I don't know if I could talk about this, but it's my disclosure. So fuck them. How's that sound? Right. And in the disclosure, there's checks being written to China for $50,000. I said, I don't know anybody in fucking China, period. But I sold vaporizers and I bought them. The vape pens, the boxes, all my printing, shirts, everything came from where? China.
Mhm.
Okay, so if that's what they have, I don't know, man. So, and I'm looking through the disclosure. There's a lot of things in the disclosure that I pled guilty to in the first set of charges when I took the rap for the other 4 kids. Okay, and I took the fine. So there's no double jeopardy. So I'm eager to see where this all goes, right? To me, it's a money grab every time my lawyer calls. It costs me $5,000, right? It's every time. And she calls. I told her quit calling so often, right? You know, call me once a
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
not every weekend, right? So it's everybody's getting paid off in the end, and I'm looking at it going, whatever. What's the worst that's going to happen?
So the saga continues. So you're still on that
Yes,
journey.
yeah. Or I'd probably be in the. I'm glad I'm on that journey because I'd probably own a mushroom store right now. I'm going there.
All right. Have they that store in Windsor, the Fun Guys Magic Mushroom Store? Have they reopened again? Are they open now, or do you know?
Yes, they're reopened now, and it's funny you're mentioning that, Rick, because I was reading an article today. I was having dinner with my son and my wife, and fucking hour ago, and I opened up my Facebook, and Al, who is it? I think it's Al Rapp. Al Rapp, he's got the 420 radio show, right? There's an article up on it on these mushroom stores. Ottawa's had them for 2.5 years, 4 stores, and nobody's been raided. This is Ottawa, the capital, right? So, yeah, nobody's raided these stores, and that was part of what the article was, right? And I'm like, really?
4
So,
years and no raids.
and Toronto too, right? No raids. So the police are like Gestapo from town to town, and I knew that when I opened up the weed store. Oh, the weed store. Oh my God, Leo's weed. That's like crack cocaine, heroin. Give me a fucking break. But I knew it as soon as I opened it, and I wasn't alone when I opened it, Rick. There was Healthy Hemp in Essex. There was a few other stores in Windsor, and there was one, especially one in Kingsville that I really like. Okay, the police had the courtesy to go to every store, knock on the door, talk to the owner, and say, you know what you're doing is illegal. If you don't shut it down, we're coming back to bust you. They did that to every store in town but mine. And there's records of that. Every store got the option to close down. This is the day after legalization, when you have the chief of police saying, I don't know the laws. The laws are changing so fast. And the media is coming to me. Well, who do I look like? Leo Lucier, barrister at law? I really don't give a fuck about the pot laws. Okay. I'm a savvy entrepreneur, and I'm going to fucking capitalize if I can on it. Right. So in the end, I have a great job. Okay. It was never about the money with me. I got a few steak dinners and fucking lobster tails out of it. Well, I got a lot, actually. Look at me. growing a fucking lobster tail under my neck. But it was, you know, they had that the courtesy, and they never gave me that courtesy ring. Right. So I was a target from the get-go because why? It's unlawful to feed the wildlife. It's unlawful to help the poor. Okay. You can't feed the poor. You can't dress the poor. The poor's the poor. They're a class in their own, right? And anybody who gets in the middle of it, you're an enemy of the state. Fuck them. You want to put me back in a cage? I don't give a fuck. Really, I don't. You know, yeah, I got kids. I got wife, but my kids are not kids anymore. You know, when they were younger, I had to lie to my kids. My one daughter, she's in grade 2 or something, whatever, 2008, 2007. I get 14 months in jail. Well, obviously, I'm uplifted from the household. I'm gone. She's like, "Where's Dad?" And I would call, "Where are you, Dad?" And it was Hurricane Katrina back then. I said, "I'm in Louisiana, helping with the hurricane." "Oh, really, Dad?" So she went to school and told the teachers and everything else. I get out of jail. I go drop her off at school. The teachers, "Oh, Leo, you're a great man. You're down in Louisiana rebuilding fucking." And I had to take the principal aside. I said, "No, it wasn't." You know, and another time I was in Afghanistan, right? Literally, you got to tell the kids. They can't tell the kids, "Oh, your dad's in fucking jail," to ruin them, right? You know, that's what I regret the most is you got to lie but you can't tell your kids. I had to lie to my kids, right? But I came out stronger than, like if it wasn't for marijuana, my first bag of weed I sold it to a guy who owned a tool shop. And it was, he wanted an ounce of weed. It was $235 an ounce. I gave it to him for 200. He said, "Hey kid, you want a job?" I said, "Yeah, sure." I went to work the next day and never looked back. Now look at me, right? 34 years, 33 years in a trade, making great money, running the show. It saved my life. It did. Some people gonna look at it and go, "Fuck, that's insanity." The guy spent 28 years on probation, bail, uh, fines. I can't even count the fines. I never had a license till I was 40. What am I? 53 till I was 45 years old. And my son was saying that today because I'm pushing him, go get his damn license. "Well, you never had one till you're 45. I said, "Listen, that was the biggest mistake I ever made. And the reason why was I was bent over fines. I couldn't pay the fines. You get $30,000 in fines, and none of them was for drinking and driving or seatbelts or running red lights. It was from weed. So they held the fines against the license, right? So I had to pay the 30,000. So the day I bought my brand new truck was the day I got my full license. Yeah, believe it or not. But I drove across the country with truckfuls of marijuana. I can't count how many times I've been to BC. I really, with no license. I drive very well, officer. Right, and it takes calm nerves, right? Especially when you're transporting contraband, right? And I could do it across the border. That's another story. With calm nerves, I've been pulled over with 100 pounds of dope. Cop goes, "What are you doing?" 100 pounds of dope. Most people would be, "What am I doing? I'm fucking going home." That's the way I talk to them, right? "I smell marijuana." "Well, then you better get a fucking warrant." "Well, you got something to hide?" "I got nothing to hide. I don't even smoke marijuana." Fuck off, right? 100 pounds of weed in the back.
This is going over the border?
No. That's a different story. We won't talk about that. We're on Rumble. Yeah. So is the DEA. No, back in the day, I come from a family of smugglers, right? Literally. Okay, my name, Leo Lucier. My uncle was what you call human trafficking today. Well, call it what it was back then, human smuggling, right? He would charge $8,000 a head to Chinese or whoever wanted to go to the United States or America from Canada, right? And he'd load up a boat full and take them over, right? And he did that for many years, made a lot of money. Anything with money, booze, tobacco. When the microwave came out, back in the 80s, hot deal if you get a microwave. My uncle was bringing boatfuls of microwave ovens across. They were going for $500 in the 80s for a microwave oven. Remember that, Rick?
I do.
Right? You name it, right? So I was named after him. And it's funny because his name's Leo Laurent Lucier. He's the first one. I'm the second one. That's the third one back there playing. I don't know. What are you playing back there? Basketball? NBA? Okay. And he was quite the character because in 1970, I was born in 1970. I'm not going to give the date, but it was in April. He was shot April 1st in Detroit in a bar over a $5 pool game, and he was paralyzed from the waist down. So he could never walk, right? And he was supposed to die, and I was the next one to be born, right? Not even a couple weeks later, and I took his full name, right? He happened to live a full life till he was 75 years old. You would have loved this guy, Rick. Okay, classic cars. He's in hot rod magazines because here's a guy who's paralyzed from the waist down, building cars. Okay, when he died, he had a 57 Bel Air, 57 Bel Air mint in the garage. Corvettes, you name it, right? And he would build cars and he would sell them, right? But when he wasn't building cars, he was a fine damn smuggler, right? Somebody got shot across the street from him, 4:00 in the morning. He hears knock, knock, knock at the door. Since being shot, he always carried a gun. He was a gangster. Okay, and he answers the door with a gun behind the door. Well, it's the police. He says, "What the fuck you want?" And he's got a gun. He's like, right behind the door. The cop's talking to him. The cop goes, "Somebody was shot across the street." He said, "Do you see wheelchair tracks?" No, get the fuck. Shuts the door, right? He's just that type of guy. He was classic. I miss him. I miss him. I could talk about him because he's dead, right? Even my own father, right? He would bury guns in the wall. Being a single father, he's always out whoring around, right, with women and shit. So, but he'd always put a gun behind the wall, and you'd plaster it or drywall it back in the day. And the reason why is anybody ever came in the house, you could just punch through the wall, grab the handgun, and blow somebody's head off, right? That's just the way I grew up, right? Yeah, pretty wild. So marijuana helped me, right? Even my own uncle, he was a gangster. He frowned upon it. You're in the drug scene. That's bad. You're gonna ruin my name. This and that, right? And it was really nice to see when he was alive, and me with the vape store, and I was always in the news doing this to the man, to the politicians, telling them to fuck off, right? Plain and simple. And he loved that shit, right? He was dead before I got to open the store, but he was around when I had the vape lounge and, all the news and hoopla, seeing his name. He's going, man, Leo's on to something, right? And I was on to something. And I'm still on to something, right? So if it wasn't for guys like me, Paul Hartman, Glenn Wells, Sam Malechi, Neil Magnusson, the list goes on and on, Rick Simpson, Cheech and Chong, you name it, we wouldn't have legalization today. Even the fellow that was on Lori's show last night, what's his name, Rick?
Russell Bentley.
Right. Okay. Russell Bentley, he's an American. I don't know if Paul knows him, but he was on the show last night. He was a weed activist. I think he was wound up with Normal in the States.
Oh, yeah.
Right. If it wasn't guys for like that put their ass on the line, we wouldn't have legalization today. And the reason we have legalization today is in 2008, Stephen Harper was the government of Canada at the time. Okay. And he made a crackdown. And this is why I didn't like Stephen Harper. Okay. And this is why I didn't vote for him after it. Okay. He made a crackdown on everybody with weed, and he came out with mandatory sentencing, right, for cannabis. And that year, I think there was 300 and something thousand bust people. 300,000. You want to fill the courts in a hurry, right? With something that's useless. Okay. For the courts to even be dealing with. It's a plant. It's all natural. He filled the courts. By that time, there was over 2.5 million people that had charges and were convicted of cannabis-related offenses in a country that only had 35 million people at the time. Right, so enough was enough. And when the poll came out and Trudeau came out, and I think it was overwhelming 75% of the people said enough's enough, legalize cannabis. Right, he used it to get elected.
Oh, he certainly did. Yeah,
he did. Yeah. And one thing that's not going to get him elected is legalizing cocaine or heroin or crystal meth or Dilaudid or any of that shit that he's trying to pull now. Right, that's going to get him out. And Pierre Poilievre's going to come in, hopefully.
Yeah. So what about you, Paul? What's been your path for activism?
Well, when I started my medical journey with it, that was what started my real activism. I started talking about it in terms of a treatment option as opposed to the standard stuff. When I got diagnosed, 8 of my friends got diagnosed. One was a business partner, one was a client, and they were all dead within 2 years. And none of them used oil. They all went the standard treatment. And one of them was a partner of mine, Angel Rosenthal. She got cancer, went in for her first chemo treatment. It killed her. The other was John Ravneg, a Norwegian musician. Got a little skin cancer on his neck. It had gone to the lymph gland. And once it hits your lymph system, it's in your whole body. And he, we learned about his death on Facebook from his son. It was, and then other people just, it was just agonizing listening to these stories and how people suffered in the process of making this transition. And when I did my treatment, like, I didn't suffer at all. There was no suffering. You know, it was pretty simple. You know, like, you make some life changes in the process, and it goes away. You know, it's and the mechanism of how it works on cancer is just amazing. You know, and it's one of the things that proves how we evolved alongside it, and that's the endocannabinoid system. And when a cell that is cancerous becomes fully differentiated, as they call it, it develops receptors on the outside of it that are specific to THC and other cannabinoids. And the THC molecule actually bonds to the cell and goes into it, and it causes what they call apoptotic cell death. It actually tricks the cell into committing suicide. And a normal cell doesn't have any of these receptor sites on it. It only gets them when it becomes cancerous. And that's how it works so incredible on things like that, right? I mean, it's pretty magnificent. And that's what spurred on all my activism. When Sam Malachi's book came out, The Great Cannabis Conspiracy, I went to the book release where I met Leo, and then Sam had a stroke shortly after that. And I went out and filled in for Sam on a great many of his speaking engagements to keep the book getting some momentum. And that was how I ended up at Leo's 420 event and Lyft and a couple of other ones in the process.
I see.
Yeah, that 420 event's something else, eh?
Yeah.
You know,
you gotta do it again.
Yeah, when I got politicians from Detroit from the Coleman Young era coming over to speak, Richard Clemente and Big George, what's his name, Cushenberry, okay, guys from politicians at who was it at the time? There was a political party in Canada, the Trillium, I think it was Trillium.
Yeah, Trillium Party. Yeah,
they came down and spoke. You know, because everybody's trying to get these votes, right? Any way they can. But the 420, that's another thing. That's what made me bigger in this town, was the 420, because when I could hold a festival next to the court building, across the street from the police station, and next door to the casino, and do it 3 years in a row, I'm the first guy ever to get a 3-day permit for any 420 festival in this country.
Your event, though, was the most adult 420 event I ever went to in my whole life. I mean, it was absolutely fantastic.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I mean, really, like, you go, and it was like nothing embarrassing happened at that thing.
No, I fenced it all off. It costs a lot of money to put on a festival like that for 3 days. You got to pay for the vending, all the tables, all the tents. I put a fence around it, Rick, and you had to be 19 years old to walk into the place, right, to get in. And security and the police are just walking around going, they didn't know what to do, right? What do we do? People commercing in cannabis products and cannabis companies. Cafe from Toronto come down. Rick, you should have seen this.
Oh, that chocolate fountain.
The chocolate fountain. If you look up Cafe Toronto, okay, and these are good friends of mine, right? That's another story for you. This trailer they came down with must have been $150,000 done, the way that they had it. The cannabis trailer. It was so professional that it opened the eyes of the downtown BIA. I was having meetings with the downtown BIA. They wanted this shit to stay.
It was cool, and it was like there was 3 dispensaries set up. I mean, it was amazing.
next to the police station. You don't even pull that shit in Vancouver.
No,
Have some
not
respect,
even.
boy. Hey, have
Yeah.
some respect, boy. That's the police, right? Fuck the police.
So I heard this morning, I was watching a video, doesn't matter who, but they just mentioned in passing some study that came out of, I think he said Denmark. And the study suggests a link between marijuana and mental illness, and I think specifically schizophrenia. Any thoughts on that? I mean, you talk about the pharmaceutical industry and you know the cannabis conspiracy. Is, in your view, is big pharma still trying to discredit?
Oh no, it makes you paranoid. It makes you paranoid. No doubt. Who's that behind me?
Yeah.
Makes
Well,
you really paranoid.
It's, you know, they always will continue their campaign to discredit it because it takes away an insane amount of business from them. You know, it's in terms of when people figure out that they can take 100 milligrams of CBD rather than a Tylenol that's going to mess up their kidneys and liver to kill pain, you know, it hurts them. You know, it hurts those big pharmaceutical companies that are used to pulling in billions. You know, like I'm sure the amount they have lost in the process of this whole thing is, you know, they're not going to notice it. You know, it's like them paying off people from antidepressant tragedies. You know, it's like they just buy people off on that stuff because they make so much money on the product. It doesn't matter. You know, when you're making $6 or $8 billion a year off one product, paying off a 40 or 50 or $100 million worth of tragedies is no big deal. You know, it's a cost of doing business.
I don't know about you, but I've had edibles stronger than Oxycontins and opiates. You get those 1,000 milligram chocolate bars out there. And you eat 100 milligrams. For me, that's a pain reliever, better than any big pharmaceutical.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where our other two guests are tonight. I thought they were going to be here at 6:30. Maybe they thought 7. It's just a little after 7 p.m. Did you send the link to them this afternoon, Leo?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Let me check my messages here.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any responses from them. Maybe they'll be along shortly.
Yeah, no response.
Maybe they forgot. Maybe they made a trip to the Magic Mushroom store.
Oh, I don't want to spoil it. I had a FaceTime last night with Kevin Westphal.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, and he's got
the
something
country
coming.
singer,
Yeah, the country singer. And we talked for about 20 minutes last night. And he's working on something. You guys are gonna love it. I said, well, when you're finished it, you make sure Mr. Rick gets it.
I love him. I love his music. He's like a modern day Stompin' Tom Connors. I love his stuff. He's hilarious.
Yeah, he is. He's the Canadian Stompin' Tom.
So what we should do then, I guess, guys, is I'm gonna send you guys both a link to a different window, and then we can get you connected to the phone system so that people can phone in, and you guys can take questions from the audience, and that way you'll get far more intelligent questions than you'll get from me. So let me just get that fired up, and we'll take a little break while I get it all set up. Okay, here we go.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Yeah, I'm back, and we'll bring everybody back in again. So, Leo doesn't have his headphones on, but I think he is.
Did you just send me a link, Rick?
I did, yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, hang on here.
Hopefully, Pure Night calls you, because last time you were on, Paul, he was pissed off at me for not letting you speak so much. He wanted to ask you some questions, right?
Okay. Yeah.
There you go, Pure Night.
Okay, so Paul, just get you to log out of this and just stick with your with the new link only.
Okay, which link am I on?
The StreamYard link, you just take that one out.
Okay.
It's okay. Actually, I think you can even stay there. Yeah, you're okay. All right. And Leo, I sent the link to you in Facebook. Do you see it there?
Yeah.
Okay. So as soon as we get you in there, then we can get the people on the phone system in.
So I could get out of this right here?
Yep.
Log out.
And while you do that, I'll get the phone lines set up. One moment, folks. Here we go. I am clicking all the buttons that need to be clicked. Okay. Hey there. Okay. I think I screwed up the connection. Hang on just a second. Too much going on. Let me run another promo. Here's the number to call. Here we go. Hang on. Okay, folks, here's the number to call.
Join the conversation. Call 1-833-975-3733. That's 1-833-975. Free. Speak up. Speak out. Make your voice heard. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom by defending your right to free speech. Be a Maverick. Join us.
One moment, folks, and then we'll be ready to take the calls.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights
Are we
and
still on
freedoms. Credible. Trusted.
Well, those
Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Hey, I'm back, and here we go. We are all set and ready to rock and roll. There we go. So we can see everybody on the screen. And let's see if we have anybody in the queue. Not yet. Okay, so let me get the phone number up on the screen so you know what number to phone. You can call in now at 1-833-975-3733. You can talk to Paul and Leo. Ask away. Ask the questions. So, guys, our other two guests aren't here, but they're running this cannabis substitution program out in Vancouver. And can I just get your assessment of that and how effective you think that approach is in terms of trying to help people get off or overcome their addiction to hard drugs?
if you save one life, that's a miracle.
Yeah, I mean, any effort is going to produce some results, you know, and it's better than the agony that they're going through, you know. I mean, it's a great substitute. I think psychedelics, mushrooms will play a bigger part in that kind of addiction recovery because you don't have to do them very often to get the results you want in terms of implementing change in your life. You know, there's a couple of great documentaries out right now on Netflix. The one by Changing Your Mind, How to Change Your Mind. Have you seen that one?
No.
Paul Stamets is in it, and all the people from MAPS, and it's a Michael Palin documentary.
Actually, we've got calls starting to stack up here. Let's go to the first caller.
All right.
All right.
Stack 'em.
Who do we have on the line? Go ahead. Hello. Go ahead.
Hello?
Hi. Who's this?
Hi. This is Heidi from yesterday.
Welcome back.
Oh, thank you.
Heidi.
And thank you, Leo,
No, thank you.
for your story. It's very moving. And I was wondering, Paul,
Yes, Heidi.
where can we find... yes, thank you so much for your story. I was wondering where we can find the cannabis oil that you have used.
Well, unfortunately, Dr. Samalachi is deceased and no longer makes the oil. But there are numerous avenues to find FICO or full extract cannabis oil.
Okay.
There's many people who have tried to fill in Sam's shoes in Ontario, and I'm sure all over Canada.
I don't know if the stores buy them because you know what? I'm not about the stores, so I don't go in the stores, and I don't know what the stores are selling. You might be able to find it in the stores. I don't know. I've never been in them dog shit places. Support the little guy.
Yeah, they have it. I mean, here we have the option of going to the reservation, to Mohawk territory, Tyendinaga and Shannonville, and so the stores have a lot of stuff. The price is high, but it is regulated. I mean, the industry is run like on pharmaceutical protocol, so it's exceedingly annoying for growers and people who are involved, because the paperwork and the tracking of everything is just so insane.
Okay.
But it's
Yeah.
it is there.
Okay, yeah. I'm sorry. I meant to say that I have tried it. I mean, I've bought it from different small companies for my PTSD,
Mm-hmm.
and I found some good kinds, really good kinds. But I was wondering, and I also take the gummies and medical cannabis. But I was wondering.
Have you tried microdosing mushrooms yet for PTSD?
No.
Do a little research on that. It's actually astounding, the results they're getting. You're taking such a tiny amount that you don't even notice the effects, other than it alleviates anxiety for longer periods of time than some other medications, right? And in some instances, people have a complete substitution of the negative effects of PTSD with it.
Oh, okay. I'll try that too. And have you ever tried kratom?
Say that again. You broke up.
Yeah, it's called kratom.
Credo, yeah. No, never have.
Okay.
I hear I've heard some good and bad things about it. That's all.
Yeah, me too. Okay. Well, thank you for all your answers, and I'll check that out.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi.
Bless you.
Bye.
Have a great night.
Thank you too. Okay, you too.
I didn't do anything. I just sat here. All right. Take care, Heidi. Who's up next? Who do we have on the line?
Okay. Bless you.
How you doing, Rick?
Oh, I'm okay, Mr. Knight. How are you?
There it is.
Well,
hello, Mr.
I got a
Knight.
text phone to call in. Hey, Leo, how you doing, bud?
There you go.
And Mr. Hartman.
How you doing, Mr. Knight?
Hey, I put it in chat, Knight. I said, now you get to have your words with him, because he gave me shit because I didn't ask him some questions. Now it's your turn, buddy.
Well, I was just curious if he had any influence on the Stanley brothers from Colorado.
The Stanley brothers. You know, I spent some time in Colorado in the early days of the gray market there. Never ran into the Stanley brothers. Colorado is a fascinating place. Has a different kind of person there. And I think it was, I think the way they went about legalization helped create a different model in lots of other places that was more beneficial to the cannabis culture people involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I kind of disagree. Charlotte's Web, that was pretty record breaking for a lot of people and a lot of families.
Oh, it sure was. Absolutely. I mean, that poor girl who ultimately died, but that was one of the first great CBD strains, and then you have guys like Larry Ringo who kind of took it to the next level after that.
Yeah, and then Phoenix Tears came out, and that's what I use now is Phoenix Tears, because it's an amazing thing. And I haven't taken pharmaceuticals in almost 20 years now, and it's all because of marijuana.
Yeah.
I've had
that's
a few
awesome.
health scares throughout. And I never took chemo. I didn't take any of that stuff. I just refused it flat out. I said, no. Why would I gamble 50-50? Look like crap, feel like crap for the rest of my life. If I'm going to go, I'm going to go. But I can't this way, and I'm still going to be a human.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, did you feel that after you beat cancer once, did you feel that you no longer had a fear about it?
No, it came back a second time, but it wasn't as long as the first time, but it was gone as soon as it came back. I just upped doses on CBD and Phoenix tears, and it was gone real fast. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like it's hard to have anxiety or fear about it when you can get control of it, and then
you see the progress pops so fast too, compared to people that are taking the chemo and they're stressed out, and that's the worst thing for them.
Yeah,
being on those floors, it was horrifying seeing those people. I was just like, God, no way am I doing that. No way. Yeah,
that was exactly my attitude. I had a relative who had prostate cancer and had the surgery, and they botched the surgery, and he had to catheterize himself every time he had to pee. And I was like, he went through that for 25 years before he died, lost one of his kidneys because of it, right? And I was just like, no fucking way am I going to go through that. I'd rather die.
Oh, me too, 100%. Like I said, you go on those wards and you see what it's insane. It's why would you do that to yourself? You're microwaving your body. Like, you have no white cells after it left, and you're screwed. You're completely screwed. Mentally, like, it's horrendous. It's almost like torture. If you look at them, they're like, oh, you allowed yourself to be tortured like that? Oh my God, no way.
It's the exact definition of insanity. They do the same thing over and over again, hoping that it's going to create a better result. And it's like people. I had one friend who was diagnosed at the same time as me. Had been a cigarette smoker. And he had a history of liver cancer in his family. His mother, father, and sister all died of liver cancer. And so he was watching himself real close. So he goes, he gets a shot of his lung, and they find a couple spots, and they go in and they take him out because it was really quick and easy, right? And cancer gone, right?
Yeah.
And he decides, I'm going to do preventative chemotherapy. And the oncologist in my book wasn't paying attention because he gave him the chemotherapy that gives you a predisposition for liver cancer. Like, all chemotherapies have a secondary cancer they cause, right? And it says so, right? Yeah. And their drug interaction warnings and safety things. And so they give him the chemo that gives him liver cancer. Mass is everywhere in his whole body. They ended up taking out 2 vertebrae in his neck, and then he was trapped in the hospital. And it was I went and visited him once, and it was like the fear was just overwhelming. Like and then they move you into those death suites that they have, right? Yeah.
It's a weird place. Like I still go to the oncologist for checkups to this day, but I'm still clear and free. But you go in there and you can smell the fear, not to mention all the other weird stuff that you smell on that floor. It's just, why would people agree to that? I don't understand that.
Yeah, I don't understand surrendering your health to a doctor when you are really the person that knows more about your body than anybody,
It's almost like they're trying to sell you a used car. That's what it felt like to me. And I was like, are you nuts? I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Why would I do that? There's no warranty or guarantee on this. No.
Crazy.
No, and their numbers are so skewed. Like like they play this weird game with their numbers in terms like, all right, so bunch of people get cancer, they get standard treatments, and there is an 85% remission rate, right? Okay.
Right.
And if you go 5 years without falling out of remission, that's considered a cure. But what happens is that 2 years in, they have an 85% failure rate. All right, so now you're down to 15%.
And it drops more.
And it drops more from there, and you go, holy fuck, their numbers are really screwed up. Like they're just playing us. It's a shell game.
We've just got we've got our other two guests here. Oh, and they just popped off. They'll be going over to the other window, so they'll be joining us in just a moment. But please continue. Sorry about the interruption.
Hey, Pure Night, you wanted to ask about a strain.
6 years now.
Oh, look at this! Wow.
I've been clear 6 years now. So, and I give it all to CBD and Phoenix tears. It's I swear it's the best. Like, I don't understand why people would go through the hell, because it looks like pure hell what these people are going through. They're basically clinging on to life with fingernails. It's like, why are you doing that to yourself? Just take some CBD. But the doctors don't want to tell you about that. That's the kicker right there. It's all geared about pharma because, big pharma pays the country and the provinces money, right?
So what kind of cancer did you have?
I had throat.
And it's cured now, or you're clear of that entirely?
I'm clear. I've been clear for 6 years. Yeah, but I still stay with the Phoenix tears and the CBD.
Congrats.
And no, man, I wasn't going down that road. When I went, the first time I went in and, where they do the biopsy and you see all the other people, and I'm like, I'm going to look like that? No fucking way. No, excuse me. No way. I'm not doing that. I got long hair and a long goatee. I ain't doing that. Hell no. And then a friend of mine introduced me to a doctor, and he was a licensed doctor in BC, but he lost it because of the pandemic. But he was also a follower of the Stanley Brothers and Charlotte's Web and the CBDs and the different strains and stuff. And he said, here, try this. Don't take any pharmaceuticals. That'll do you worse than anything else. This won't kill you. Nobody's died from weed. So I was like, okay. So I started taking that for a few months. Then I went back to the oncologist, and he was like, okay, this is weird. I've never seen this before. And I thought it was getting bigger. And he said, no, it's disappearing. I was like, oh. He goes, what are you doing? I didn't tell him. I said, oh, nothing. Just eating right, I guess. I don't know. Getting more exercise, I guess. I don't know. And I went back to the doctor and said, yeah. And I showed him, and he goes, yeah, I told you. The pharmaceuticals will kill you. This won't kill you. It won't harm you in any way. And he goes, do you want to up it? And I said, well, hell yeah, let's up it. And then that's when I got onto the Phoenix tears. And the Phoenix tears, within 7 months, it was gone the first time.
Cool.
Didn't take no treatment.
The Phoenix tears are a
FICO,
right? A FICO oil, right?
Yeah, FICO. Yeah, it's 100% FICO. And it comes in a little dropper. There's no taste to it, really. You just drop it in your mouth twice a day, and you're good to go.
It's something so harmful. They put millions of people in prison for it. It's never killed anybody. Give yourself ask yourself that question, right? It's all about the money.
Here in Vancouver, you can walk around with hard drugs and nobody looks at you anymore. It's like, what is going on with this world, really? You're gonna demonize marijuana, but hey, you want to get some cocaine, heroin, meth, or whatever you want? There you go. What? This makes no sense.
Liberal ideology at its finest.
Well, welcome, Glenn and Neigl. I'm glad to have you guys back on the program. I think I probably had my timing screwed up. I thought you were going to be here a little earlier. I'm sure it was my mistake because you're right on the money at 7:30 p.m. So welcome back. Of course, you guys, I'm going to let you introduce yourselves because you tell everybody you're from Vancouver and tell us about your store and the cannabis substitution program that you guys are running there, to kind of reintroduce yourselves, and then we'll start having people ask you questions from the audience.
Okay, well, I'm Glenn Wells. I'm one of Neil's volunteers and also the producer of his show, of the THC show that we do on Pot TV and Cannabis Culture. I've been with Neil for what, 4 or 5 years now?
4 years at the show, yeah.
He started at the Vandu, which is the Vancouver area network of drug users. And we used to have people line up in front there, and he would give them a high dose edibles starting once a week and then twice a week. And there was like lineups of people all the way around the corner, and we'd hand them out free apples and oranges, and they'd come up and get their package from Neil. And there you go.
So I'm Neil Magnusson. I started the Cannabis Substitution program, and as Glenn says, for the first 3.5 years, we handed out care packs with 4 to 6 edibles, maybe 50 to 100 milligrams of each. Had great success. We had the city meet with us and pass a motion saying that they would support low barrier access. And we went and got a storefront, which we're sitting in now, but we can't use it because this was 3 years ago. And they decided once we had moved in that they wouldn't give us a license until Health Canada did. And so we applied to Health Canada September 16th, 3 years ago, coming up. And we've been waiting ever since. But Rick, you get a scoop on your show here. Last Wednesday, after 2 intent to refuse notices from Health Canada that we answered back to, I got their final refusal. So they are going to refuse our application for a license, and we don't know what that means yet, but it certainly isn't the end of the program. We will not stop no matter what, unless they make me disappear somehow. But what I want to ask you is if I could possibly read to you my response to their second intent to refuse, which I think will answer a whole bunch of questions before they're even asked about what we're doing here and how we're doing it and what it all is.
Sure,
and
go
this
ahead.
This is the letter that Health Canada has decided to refuse. Oh, I just had it there. You just had it, yeah. There it is. I got to go all the way back to the beginning again on this thing. Here we go. So, good day. It's Neil Magnusson from the Cannabis Substitution Program. This is about a press conference that I had with the health minister that prompted their initial response a few weeks ago to say that they're still having it under review. So I won't read you that, but this is what I wrote to them. With all due respect, we find your intent to refuse our application outrageous and unacceptable. There are some bottom lines that are not seemingly being recognized by your department. Our record of efficacy, proper low barrier access supply, multiple solutions and obvious exemption paths, and our shared vision and value for health and wellness. This is not my letter.
No, well, find your letter then.
This is not my letter. This is the letter. This is my letter that was taken by my lawyer and revised because he wanted to have his own say about, how I could change it, but that wasn't it. So
why he finds the letter, I was going to let everybody know what FICO stands for, because you heard that word. Lots of people don't know that. That's full extract cannabis oil. That's what the FICO stands for. That's why we call it FICO oil.
I'm going to need a minute.
You're going to need a minute?
I'm going to need a minute.
I'm also the owner of a 420 friendly dating and meeting site. It's called Cannabis.ca. We have 4,000 members. You never ever have to ask anybody if they smoke pot and cannabis because we all do.
Listen, Pure Knight, I'm gonna drop your call and we're gonna move on to the next caller unless there's something,
Yeah, you go ahead and find this.
Is there
Have a great day, gentlemen.
all right, thank you.
you.
Really
Good night,
appreciate the
Nick.
call. Okay, let's move on to the next caller. Who do we have with us now?
Guy La Rochelle?
Well, hello, how are you, D?
No, it's Guy.
Oh, Guy.
G-U-Y as in French. Sorry about that.
Welcome.
D's never called.
Thank you.
Yes. Go ahead.
And I really appreciate that you brought these guys in because it's a very important thing. And I'm very, very happy that the boys just jumped in right now so I can talk to them too. So, again, thank you very much for bringing the guys on.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, Neil, thank you very much for what you're doing for the people. But the one thing that I just heard, or I heard it about maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, that you're selling fecal oil. Well, thank you very much for starting that.
Oh, we've had that all.
Fecal oil. Yeah, fecal oil. I have a license to grow because I have a problem with a broken heel, rotator cuff problem, and glaucoma. And the doctors have always had a hard time deciding how to direct you because they won't. The people that even authorize it have issues. You have to have learned from the past. I'm 62 years old, and in 96, I knew of what the oil was like when people would turn around and go into the fields in southwestern Ontario, pick hemp they thought might have a little bit of THC in it, and find a way of being able to extract it with alcohol, and then just have it bake in the sun so that you would have that oil at the bottom that you could use to put onto paper and smoke with tobacco. That was the old way of doing it. So I remembered all that, and then I turned around and got all the equipment to make fecal oil. Now, how that happened was my wife was getting needles in her eyes for some sort of a disease. And I keep going from Fort McMurray all the way to Edmonton, where I am right now in Fort McMurray, and go all the way to Edmonton every 3 months to have her go through that stuff. It just got to me. So I talked to my buddies in southwestern Ontario, some of the ones that kind of understand about the fecal oil. They said that, yeah, it really helps, like they said in the 70s, for different things. Now, here I am in 2022 with glaucoma and beating it again with fecal oil. She beat all the needles, but hers, this is the thing I got to say about fecal oil. We have to be very honest about it. Because I grow, I know my wife couldn't deal with any other kind of plant. I had to have a specific one. And so I grew this little plant and I made fecal oil only out of it, knowing she could take that. Mine had to be different. You have to really know your stuff when it comes to the plants that work for you. How people know that, I don't know. And a lot of people, yeah, they trust other people, and then they lose kind of credibility on it because that's not working the way it should. And Glenn can tell you a whole story about how I'm sure he had to have certain things a certain way. Because my foot injury in 2015 was so bad that the side of my heel had 9 screws in it and a plate of steel and so much opioids over 6 months that I didn't think I'd get out of it. And it wasn't for Dr. Stephanie Clark in Alberta, in Calgary, that said, I'm going to give him 400 milligrams of CBD, and we're going to knock that pain down fast. And it came in bottles that was very expensive in those days, secret stuff. And I drank them down like nothing, and and like Neil says, it knocks out everything in your stomach for any needs for anything else. It's like it takes away all of the pain and everything, or takes your head away from it. So you could just be normal. And that was in 2015.
Yeah.
And that's why, that is why whatever happened in 2018 is a mess. Exactly the way Glenn is saying it. They tried to hide all that stuff. They took the little section and they put it in the act to try to hide it. The medical one. So that's why a guy named Jason Wilcox got mad and he fought them on it before it was legal. He's the one who said to most Canadians, get a grow license. And in my mind, 2016, the grow license came.
They did.
So that's the key right there, is that certain people had a good idea of saying, I don't know how it's going to help you, but if you have a way of growing it and you can find the plants that help you, you can change your world. It's not easy to do. Yeah, but the idea of that, Exactly. But the big thing is good work like what Glenn and Neigl are doing is they bring about those exposures because there's some sort of a fecal registry somewhere. I don't know exactly where it is. If those two were pushing, that has got to be the best thing because people's examples of, I used fecal from Rockstar. I used fecal from this kind of plant. I used this kind of plant. You know what I mean? They can all say it there. And you can say, oh, that makes sense. I could try fecal from Rockstar. I can try from Sensi Star. You know, from all these beginning strains that you might think will help you, or you just talk to friends. But it is a gamble if it's going to work or not. But it does work when it works.
Yeah, fecal is by far the best edible, most powerful, and most effective, especially when, as the caller said, you target the different strains that might work best for some people. There's a fecal institute in Ontario somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where, but you could probably find that. And they're doing some fine cutting edge work with respect to specific strains and ratios of CBG, CBN, THC, and all of that within the FECO. We've had it here since the beginning. We always have, and we're low barrier. So we keep our prices right down. And for the last several months, I'm really happy to say that we've had the full gram of FECO for $10 a syringe, which is, affordable for anybody that's got that going on. It is the most powerful for sure. I've got that letter, if I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
A little bit of your time here. So with all due respect, we find your intent to refuse our application outrageous and unacceptable. There are some bottom lines here that are not seemingly being recognized by your department. First and foremost is that we have rescued hundreds of people from addiction over the past 6 years of this public health emergency, and we continue to do so every day. One would think that a six-year-long successful demonstration would be enough. We were even deemed essential by Coastal Health during the pandemic. As the science clearly shows, cannabis, primarily in the form of high-dose edibles, is very effective for many people in assisting them through withdrawal and in replacing the use of addictive and dangerous substances. This is by far the most important aspect of how and what we are, helping people. During the past 6 years that we have been on the front lines of this epidemic of overdose and death, we have truly become experts on what is needed as we have continually worked to meet the needs of those afflicted. Our program is in collaboration with Vandu. Since the first 3.5 years of working from the Vandu offices twice a week, we have operated 8 hours a day, every day for the past 33 months, for 5.5 months from the storefront, and for the past 27.5 months from the RV. So just over 3 years now, we've been selling cannabis as well from this location here, Cordova in Maine. Providing low barrier access to the cannabis options that are otherwise out of reach for the majority of the marginalized people that we're helping. Denying our application is not a possibility. If we're to stop providing the low barrier cannabis option, it would send hundreds of the people who have come to rely on us into despair, with many going back to the poison drug supply and death. This is clearly stated in our application and backed up by the letters from Dr. M.J. Malloy and by Professor Zachary Walsh, along with personal testimonials from our clients. We are keenly aware of this, and that is why we simply cannot stop. Professor Walsh's submission, a recognized expert in the field, he states that our program needs to be protected, supported, and expanded with no barriers placed in front of it. It is your job to determine how to do that by way of an exemption or a special license of some sort. Our application is not regarding a proposal of something that might be effective. It is an application for you to license or provide an exemption for what has been ongoing and what has definitely been hugely successful and without any problems for over half a decade. The bottom line here is that our efforts have proven beyond any doubt to be extremely effective and most importantly safe in rescuing vulnerable people from addiction and death. With human lives in the balance in this public health crisis, it is the responsibility of your department to support solutions that work. The solution we have been demonstrating is by far the best that there is. As all in this neighborhood would testify to, cannabis is the real safe supply. High-dose edibles is a gateway out of addiction. It is imperative that you not refuse our application, but instead enter into dialogue with us about how we can keep making this work even better. With respect to using a regulated supply, we would also appreciate this, with the bottom line here being that it can't increase the cost or compromise the medical value. There are a few potential remedies already previously referred to in our original application. First would be to provide licenses or exemptions for those who have been supplying us over the years. We have very successfully demonstrated the safety of our supply. There's not been a single problem or complaint in over 6 years. We also test everything before it goes out. This by itself should really be enough, along with our track record, to be afforded your support. So by far the best way to reach our current suppliers who have more than proven their methods and products are safe. They deserve and desire to be legal producers, but what is also important is that in many cases, these are people deeply concerned for their own personal reasons and want to help, in some cases, due to having lost loved ones to this epidemic. Why should they not be afforded an opportunity to help and given licenses if they meet reasonable standards? There's also the option of allowing current licensed producers to provide us with the regulated cannabis that they destroy due to overproduction or other reasons at no cost or low cost. This would provide us with a regulated supply and save the producers the cost of destroying it. Then there's also the option of allowing for some members of our society to be designated growers and produce for specific clientele, but this option is much more complicated and would likely pose unjustified barriers, putting vulnerable people at risk. Oh dear, I just lost it.
You just lost it.
I just lost
it.
No. So next caller.
No, not next caller. I'm finished.
Okay. Yeah, you go ahead. You continue.
I'll find it. I'll read the rest of it. But in the meantime.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Guy.
Okay. Anyways, yes, Neil, you're 100% right. And like I was saying, Rick, it's one of the best things that you've ever put on this program. I appreciate it so much. I watch you. And this one here is really going to help a lot of people. It's just one of those things. You have to really study it. Even my kids now are talking about cannabinoids and stuff like that. So you're even getting younger people understanding the benefits of being able to keep your balance in life within your body. And a lot of people think, oh, it's just hokey pokey. Go ahead, it doesn't matter. But for other people, it makes a difference. So thank you, Neil.
I'd rather see kids smoking weed than tobacco and drinking.
Me too. Yeah.
Mine.
You don't know what it's like. Yeah, that's the worst thing, especially up here in Fort Mac. That's where they don't know what to do, and their employers go, oh, no, not weed. So they turn around and use hard drugs. That's why I want a substitution here, because I've got so many that are stuck on the hard drugs. Because you can just snort some coke, a day later go to work. It's not even there, man. That's fun. I'm going to do that every second day. Get high. Try weed. It's in you so long that you're fired. So you see what I mean? That's the dilemma there. London, Ontario, well, that when I moved back there, they've already got a nice program. That I can already tell that's a certain segment of the population. Here it's not. These are just working people. And they just want to relax a bit and feel a little bit better. But if they get caught with that stuff, there goes that $250,000 whole paycheck. That's the difference. That's why it's wrong. But it's changing. It's changing all the time.
What a great segue that was at this point to what I got, because I'm back to the letter. And what it starts from this point is what is most wrong about the present legalization scheme, ignoring the glaring hypocrisy when comparing to alcohol, tobacco, and other problematic substances, is the gap that we are trying to cover. It leaves out the most needy and vulnerable people who, firstly, are not able to afford the artificial and unjustified high prices being charged by the legal system, but mostly because there's no availability of high-dose edibles, which are crucial in assisting addicted people through withdrawal, which is the #1 barrier to quitting, as well as being very effective in dealing with pain, anxiety, PTSD, sleep disorders, and other drivers of addiction. And that last sentence is very important to understand, as addressing the underlying drivers of addiction goes a long way in preventing the disorder and in exiting it. With respect to the goals of the Cannabis Act, to provide access to quality-controlled cannabis and to deter illegal activity, it is clear that the Act itself is the largest barrier to achieving those goals. With prices that are out of reach for many people, along with the other barriers to access that are part of the Cannabis Act, those people are driven to the unregulated market. Even worse is that in this neighborhood and other poor neighborhoods across Canada, the lack of access to cannabis combined with the easy access to opioids and dangerous street drugs, as is evidenced by the number of people overdosing on those drugs, also drives them to seek release from those other dangerous and unregulated substances, putting their lives at risk while increasing the use of unregulated drugs. increasing illegal activity, and enriching bad actors. This is completely counter to the stated goals of the Act. As for the requirement that we only accommodate people with a medical professional's oversight and permission, we find this to be untenable and unacceptable. This barrier must be removed, as it would eliminate the vast majority that are relying on us, resulting in unnecessary suffering and death, and these are some of the most vulnerable people at risk. There are millions of mainstream Canadians who are presently unable to find a doctor, let alone those we help, who are marginalized and undesirable to doctors as patients. There's also a large number of Canadians who fear doctors and the medical system and would not get a doctor even if they could. These people are disabled, either physically, mentally, or by their addiction. They deserve protection. To remove and restrict their access to cannabis, as stated repeatedly, especially high-dose edibles, is a direct and cruel attack on these disabled Canadians and will be, for many, a death sentence. Discreet, low-barrier access is crucial. Your more than 2.5-year delay and counting in approving our application has undoubtedly already resulted in many more deaths that would have otherwise not have happened had easy low-barrier access to affordable cannabis and especially high-dose edibles been granted in a timely fashion by your department. With respect to the 3 other possible paths to an exemption, public safety, public interest, and for research, there is no doubt we qualify on all 3 counts. First, to say that our program is not about public safety is either willful blindness on your part or a complete lack of understanding in the origins and the value of our efforts. The CSP began 6 years ago in response to the public health crisis. That is our whole focus, rescuing people from addiction to prevent overdoses. In doing what, we also improve their overall health through the other benefits of cannabis like pain and mood management, improved sleep and appetite, and many other well-documented health benefits. We also provide an ear and a calm, safe space. We also give out socks and hand warmers when it's cold, along with other donations of much-needed items as they come in. We work in concert with the other harm reduction and service providers, including the Aboriginal Front Door and the police, counseling those in need with some hope and direction. We have helped in many ways and in many situations where public safety is at issue. Second, what we are doing is definitely in the public's interest. The ongoing problems with homelessness, poverty, mental illness, and addiction are constantly in the media and part of citizens' daily dialogue. Our efforts are front and center in many of those conversations, with several media outlets, along with other interested parties and harm reduction initiatives across the country, supporting us and awaiting your decision. And third, as for whether or not we can provide research potential, our program provides an amazing opportunity to gather important data from the front lines. For the 5.5 months that we were in the storefront before being forced to operate from the RV, we captured data by way of a series of questions updated by our clients upon each visit. The limitations of working from the RV that got put on hold, but there is still ongoing research and research plans, along with great opportunity and potential to gather data that can be extremely valuable. One member of our team, Brix Carlisle, has several universities degrees. He's currently working on a study involving our clientele and has spoken to Dr. Malloy about working together on a research project. Another member of our team is a certified master herbalist. We also still have the hundreds of pages of data collected during our time in the storefront. Right now, there are also university researchers who are monitoring the program to gather data regarding opiate addiction and high dosage, cannabis use, etc. And also, Dr. Malloy is willing and anxious to lead research, but is waiting for our exemption or special license to be approved. You are able to hold off on denying are you able to hold off and deny while the research continues? Are you able to provide an exemption for research purposes? I believe we are aligned with the values that you are at Health Canada. We really need to work together on this to find a way to continue the lives, health, and well-being of so many vulnerable, at-risk people is at stake. Perhaps you or some of your staff came and spent some time with us, you would have a better understanding of why it is imperative that we not stop and how profoundly beneficial our program is and has been for the hundreds of poor souls that we help every day. The team of people that makes this work are extremely proud of what we do for the desperate and suffering people that we help. Many people thank us every day and comment about how the options we are providing is life-changing and life-saving. So perhaps if you came and monitored our efforts and listened to the people we help, then you would understand why denying our application is not a possibility from our perspective. I'm sure you can appreciate that we have come to know and empathize with most of who use our services over the years. In many ways, they're like family to us, and I know many of them feel the same way about us. Turning our backs on them at this point would be cruel and unusual to both them and our team, not to mention unjustified. How could we possibly do that? Could you? Would you? We can't and we won't. Just like prohibition and now gross overregulation makes criminals out of millions of people who otherwise wouldn't be, your inaction and ultimate refusal, if that's what you decide, will make myself and the team of angels who work with me into criminals, as we would find ourselves with no choice but to defy your decision and continue to save lives and better the lives of the people in need. We implore you to do the right thing, to put lives and health ahead of people instead of corporate profits, to allow and support what we continue to prove every day is an extremely valuable weapon in the war against addiction, overdose, and death. We would welcome dialogue about how we can comply and with reasonable regulations and requirements to even better be able to help the citizens who are afflicted and suffering. Withholding and restricting access is resulting in death and misery and is completely contrary to the goals of public health and safety. Bottom line is that vulnerable people's lives should be what's most important. But in the public's perspective, it really seems to be more about capitalizing on the sale of cannabis and monetizing the overdose crisis than actually saving lives and bettering people's health. This is a disgusting and very bad look. It should be about recognizing the bottom lines. We're in a public health emergency, and easy, low barrier access to cannabis, especially high dose edibles, will save lives. So that's my response to their intent to deny that they've now decided to deny anyway.
Well, I can only say one thing. It's very well written. It's the same story. And what I've seen of two things this year, which was the LIFT conference, which again, guys like Remo and stuff that have been known all over YouTube as being good citizens that are patients, turn around and get said, nope, you guys can go hide in the corner and try your cannabis there, and we'll only have a few pictures. Even to this day, at this year, they hide the top guys that grow the stuff. It's not open. Where is a place like when you have a beer tent where it's just a fucking pot tent? Only at these illegal things that you guys put on. Why can't the legal guys put it together? I don't know. But if somebody did from the legal side, say, once we want to have some people together to smoke our legal shit that we have in our pockets, the legal people that aren't medical might change things, but they don't.
We don't think they're allowed. I think under the Cannabis Act, they're not allowed to attend any of our open markets or are allowed to advertise any of their products.
No, wait a second. Wait, I never said that you would do that. I said that I would go to a cannabis store right now and I would go get even one joint and I would go somewhere where in a park where there would be 5 people and we'd all light it up. But it never happened. It never happened. I don't know what it is about the legal market. They never promote being together. While the illegal market
is not allowed to. You're not allowed to in the parks. And there's no consumption sites allowed anywhere, which is absolutely...
That's what I mean.
Cannabis is
such a... you're 100% right.
...product that people like to congregate and like you say, share a joint amongst a bunch of people. There really needs to be consumption sites for people. Lots of people are new in town. They're tourists. They can't use their hotel room. They need a consumption site. It's just outrageous that the government won't allow that. But lots of things about the government are pretty outrageous.
Yeah, think about that. Just that meal itself. Forget about us as anything needy. The people that come here even and go buy the stuff don't even have a place to consume it like a consumption site. For the legal stuff, for the non-medical guys.
And we had thousands.
So how do you win there? You didn't even think about them.
Here in Vancouver, we had thousands of people coming in from miles and miles around to attend Cannabis Day, where they can access some of these things that they can't otherwise get. And the mayor of Vancouver decided within his wisdom to spend taxpayer dollars to fence off a huge park that we use and to bring in 50 police officers to patrol us, the few that remained, all day long to make sure that nobody sold anything that Trudeau didn't get a cut of.
I just hope that landlord isn't hurt because that wasn't fair.
The last couple of days.
We've been checking up on him.
Yeah, his hand is out of a sling now.
That's just not that, these guys, they want to try to make changes quick. It doesn't happen that way. Every year you've been accepted. And then one year you're not? What, you turned the wrong color? What?
The CSU attended this year.
Yeah, and like you say, we've been really good. We've been really good protesting citizens for all the 30 years here in Vancouver that we've been doing Cannabis Day, proving ourselves every single time that we have safe events, we clean up after ourselves, no issues with anything except they don't like what we're doing, they don't like what we're saying. Yeah, this is quite a bold move by the mayor this time. It's a real abuse of power, a criminal misuse of public funds, it's contempt for the populace. What happened here in Vancouver?
And the commerce you brought to Vancouver.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
And I would like to say, a lot of people might be saying in the comments that cannabis is a gateway drug. Cannabis is not a gateway drug, right? I didn't.
You have to say that some people's experience has been that.
Okay.
But typically it's what.
Yeah, let's not say that. Yeah, that's kind of crazy, right? Yeah.
Then on to the hard drugs. But prohibition really makes cannabis a bit of a gateway drug because it just lumps it in with all the other drugs. A drug is a drug is a drug. They're all illegal. If you're doing marijuana, you may as well do cocaine. You may as well boost up the meth. So prohibition's had a lot to do with that. But some people's, their story is that cannabis was their gateway to harder drugs, and I can't deny them their truth. But for the vast majority of people, it's more like alcohol, cigarettes.
I was going to say it may lead to something, but it's more likely your history. My 10 years of crack use was because of the sexual abuse I had as a child, not because I was smoking pot first.
Right. And just because you smoked pot first doesn't mean it was a gateway to that.
Cannabis has turned me around. I am now 23 years clean from crack because of cannabis.
Yeah,
right.
Much more a gateway.
It helps me with my PTSD from my sexual abuse, and it helps with my scoliosis, which is my third point. And like the other caller said, it makes you forget that you're in pain every day. You get to live your life. I prevent myself from bending down a lot because of my curve.
I feel for you, Glenn. It's not covered, is it?
Yeah.
You don't get any of that stuff covered.
No. And if they
no medical cannabis,
you get the crappy stuff that the government has.
But worse than that, it's not only not covered, but it's restricted. The access is restricted. And that to me is a direct attack on a disabled person who would otherwise use it to improve his life. For no good reason, for no justification. Okay. Why do they restrict access?
That's why he wants to grow?
What they say.
Is that why he wanted to get a license to grow? Because he didn't want them to hold him back?
Well, he wants a license to grow so that he can grow plants without being feared of arrest.
Yeah.
Right. So you could grow what they tell you and you can make fecal oil and everything else. I get it. Because they wouldn't give you fecal oil as a authorization when you first asked for it.
You got to make that yourself.
And even if you try to up your prescription so that you can do a barter system with somebody who will make you the oil for you, Health Canada says no. Right? I applied for 100 gram a day so that I could do this stuff. I've been juicing it, using it for edibles and oils, and I can't do that because I have a child at home. I can't be doing this kind of stuff at home. So I barter it and I give people bud and they give me what I need for it. And, you try to make your license work that way so that you can get the stuff that'll help you.
Yeah. For sure. Like, I'm thinking along the lines, that's very expensive. Remember where I told you I'm from, Fort McMurray. If I didn't live here, I could not afford cannabis substitution program. Forget it. That would never happen. Never in 1,000 years. The first dose was about $1,000. It was $250 for 30 milliliters of 100 milligrams of CBD in 2016. Wow. Nobody even knew what that was. I didn't give a shit. I said, "Here's $1,000. Fuck you. That's just a little bit of fucking overtime." Here we go. Go. My foot just went, and I went, "Thank you."
Turns out all those massive hemp fields in Canada where, they always would say, well, we got to put them where they can't see them from the main highways and what have you, keep the teenagers out of there. And they told the teenagers, if you smoke that shit, it's just going to give you a headache because there's no THC in there. Well, they're right. There's very little THC. Turns out there's a whole bunch of CBD in there. And now all those farmers are pretty much rich because they have these licenses to grow hemp and they can glean the CBD off it as long as they do it according to government restrictions and stuff. Yes, please.
I gotta step out, you guys. It was fun. Nice meeting you guys, Glenn and Neil.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Bye, Leo.
Take care, you guys.
I really appreciated your earlier conversation before we came on.
Thank you.
Very much did. I concur with all of that.
Awesome.
Well, yeah, Paul, that was awesome too. All of your success to you too with everything you've done with that.
Thank you. Love to you all. Blessings.
Paul, Neigl, and Glenn deserve 3 Purple Hearts and 4 Congressional Medals of Honor for the work that you guys put in. Okay, you guys are the true heroes.
You deserve one too for your
For sure,
past,
for sure.
friend. That giving people weed for food and stuff like that. Oh, that was awesome, man. Feed the poor, get a gram of weed or something. That was
We love you,
I hope to
Leo.
get to see Leo one day when I get back to London.
Hey, and you know what's funny about that? I bet they're wishing with the way the economy is right now in the times,
Yeah.
shit like that was going on.
Yeah.
They're putting
Yeah.
the food banks, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's move on to our next caller here. Hey, thank you, Guy, very much for calling in tonight.
Thank you, Rick. Take care
Thanks,
for
Guy.
everything.
Okay. All right, let's see who we have up next. No name on the screen. Go ahead.
Hello.
Is it? Oh, it's Note. Hello. How are you?
No name.
Hi.
Oh.
Hey, Leo, Glenn, and Neil.
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, guys. I've got an experience with all of this, believe it or not. I have a few friends that are seniors that have been down the rabbit hole of trying to find help with various sleep disorders. As you get older, you don't sleep so well and all that kind of stuff, right? And I started out, because I have various different health things, I was told, hey, you really should, once it got legalized, you really should try some cannabis oil. It'll help with pain. It'll help you sleep, all that good stuff. And being totally naive, because I mean, I was one of those people that I could have a beer, but if I put smoke something funny with it, I got sicker than a dog. So I was very reluctant, right? But anyways, I did order through online, because as soon as it became legal, and just based on what people were telling me. And I actually did okay. I started to get a night's sleep here and there and whatever. But it was just getting crazy expensive. I couldn't afford it. And then, government steps in. Oh, look, you get emails from Shoppers Drug Mart. You can get, approved through a doctor online, and they'll send you, whatever they feel that, you need for whatever your health issues are, and blah, blah, blah. I went, okay, I'm going to do that. So I jumped through ridiculous amount of silly hoops, finally got to talk to somebody like a teledoctor and whatever. And I was approved for whatever it was. I can't remember the name of anything. And I finally got this in the mail from Shoppers Drug Mart through this prescription cannabis oil. They sent me 2 different syringes. One was for sleep and one was for basic everyday pain and whatever. Followed the dosages impeccably, because being a nervous Nelly and all that, always remembering how nauseous and sick I would get if I, had a glass of wine and something, I just didn't, I was being very careful. Anyways, within about the first week, there was a night that I didn't wake up. I actually didn't wake up. And when I did wake up, and I realized that I literally lost an entire day and night, I was terrified. When I tried to get out of bed, it was pretty terrifying. My body felt super heavy. I could barely lift my arms and legs. I was throwing up. I was nauseous as can be. It was a terrible experience. And this is from our government.
You know why, right?
Why,
right?
Well, somebody told me it was called a green out.
Yeah, pesticides and chemicals here. How many are they now allowed to prove? 21 pesticides and chemicals they could spray on all natural plant that don't need any chemicals at all, and it's killing people off like big tobacco. Okay, the effects.
And see, that's what's really terrifying. So the government has become basically drug dealers that are they're being greedy. What are they doing with the money that they're making from all this? Their hard drug sales and soft drug sales. I don't know, but that was a horrifying experience for me.
Yeah, and you can get that even with just regular weed if you eat too much of it, right? The FICO is very, very powerful. If you start a program of doing FECO for whatever serious illness you have, you just start out with a tiny little flake on your wrist, and then take that and then build slowly up from there. You can get to the point where you've eaten too much. Some people have stayed unconscious for 2 days. You know, you're not harmed by it. It won't kill you, but it's a nasty experience. Most people don't like it at all. So the caution that the government,
nasty.
So at the retail sale point, the caution that the government be there is to start low and go slow with the proper timelines in there, just to give people guidelines for how not to eat too much of it. But yeah, even with regular cannabis, you can consume too much when you're using the edibles. You can't really smoke too much, but you can certainly eat too much. It's not very comfortable, but it won't kill you.
People recommend.
Yeah, no, thankfully it didn't. I'm here to tell you about it, but it was actually one of the worst experiences I ever had. And now I'm really reluctant to try cannabis oil again, thanks to this government, okayed cannabis oil that I got through their, designated doctors that they were allowing to right? It was the worst experience I ever had. And I'm glad I woke up, but I'm telling you, it was awful. So I don't know if anyone else has had that experience, but, that are,
and
no, I mean, through Shoppers, like through a drugstore, like through the so-called government proper channels, if anyone else is, like I followed the prescription that they gave me impeccably because I was that scared, right? And apparently it was absolutely awful.
Or as Leo says, I mean,
I would think that she probably greened out, right? And that's probably what it was.
And it could be because of the contaminants. It could be because of the fertilizers and pesticides.
The recommended dosage for you starting with full extract cannabis oil is the size. You start with a little drop the size of a piece of a rice. So whatever rice is, that's what you start with.
And you don't build it up the next day. You do that for 5 days in a row, and then you can increase it by double. That's the standard way to do it. You can, over a period of time, build up an amount that, like you say, you could sleep for a couple of days. But it's worth trying again. I don't recommend the government stores, and I know that you, along with so many other people, they just want to do it right. They don't want to be illegal. You have the legal route there, but to have a good underground, unregulated supply is probably a safer bet. But
and most sticks are a gram. So there's usually a gram of fecal inside of each oral syringe. And there's a mark for each one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. One of those is 10 milligrams or 100 milligrams, right? 100 milligrams. Yeah. So you want to take really, really small piece of that, right? Because you want to, we say, go low and go slow. Start at 10 milligrams. If you haven't felt anything in an hour and a half, then you can do another dose. You don't want to do another dose after half an hour because an hour later you might feel that first one and then you go, oh shit.
An hour is a pretty reasonable amount of time.
Yeah. But some people have slower metabolism. I go with the hour and a half.
I have heard of it kicking in later than that.
Yeah.
But typically its onset is within an hour.
Yeah. And it's helped me.
Yeah, if I had the opportunity to go to a shop where the two of you were, and the choice between a pharmaceutical doctor that was dispensing it through the government or whatever, I'd rather go to you guys after what I went through because it was hell. And of course, they're not there to help you because, like whatever, right? You're twisting in the wind. You're having a reaction to this, and nobody through the government is going to help you with that, right? Because they don't really know what they're doing, apparently.
Exactly.
Well, and there is no real help for it other than to ride it out. You want to improve your environment as best you can with some nice music and some nice lighting and something that feels peaceful, and then just ride it out, knowing that this will.
You mean after you throw your guts out and you can manage to walk again?
Some people say that taking some CBD can also reverse that.
Well, and orange juice or vitamin C.
Yeah, vitamin C, orange juice. So there is ways of doing it. Food brings you down. If you're able to eat while you're really, really stoned and don't like it, if you can eat, that brings you down. CBD will bring you down.
Right.
And
vitamin C.
Yeah, vitamin C. So very, very important. If you're up that high and and your body is too heavy, try to get something into you, even some orange juice.
Oh, it was like lead. It was like I was doing a moonwalk or something. It was horrible.
I've been there too.
I've had that experience.
Everything was blurry. The room was dark. I could barely see my feet. Like, it was awful.
You took too much.
Do not add alcohol.
No. That's
definitely not.
Alcohol, yes.
Do not add alcohol.
No, definitely not. But I mean, you know, it'll never cease to amaze me that here the government's getting a piece of the pie with the hard drugs. So basically, our government has become drug dealers, right? Mm-hmm. And yet now Bill C-47 is going to lock up our natural supplements. Like, I'll never understand any of this stuff, right? What the heck is going on?
Bubble, but it's all really about money. And the hard drug sales in North America are all there supporting the CIA's special ops. And it's a cash cow. A lot of what's going on behind the scenes. They don't want to let that go.
Yeah, they wanted to get in on the action, I guess, right? I mean, even the average senior now in Canada gets it, you know, after we've been seeing what's been going on.
Yeah. I like to report that 3 doctors in my doctor's office now help prescribe to seniors CBD and cannabis. And that is mainly because of me. After 30 years, I had a doctor that came from South Africa. He was deadly against cannabis, would not ever sign my ACMPR or MMAR. And I turned him around, and he now asks me to tell people to eat healthy if they use cannabis. His other doctors are also doing that. They're listening to their patients, which is amazing.
That's another important thing. Like, you know, the standard doctors, they've got their 3-minute limit, and do they listen to their patients? No. Ever? No, I don't remember that happening, right? So,
you don't think
I mean, what's that?
I don't think they're keen to listen if it's not in their interest to hear what you have to say.
Yeah,
they're pretty much invested in the protocols that they have, and they get, you know, paid well for all of that. So you can, you know, everybody's in it for their own personal interest, pretty much wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and that certainly holds true with hold on to prohibition.
Exactly, and therein lies. Here we go again. I've mentioned it to Rick on a few occasions. You know, ethics and morality and all that good stuff has to be brought back as the thing in everything, because we've lost it in our government, in our systems, everything. And if people could, you know, take care of their health naturally, we need to get back to that in a big way. And yet, the government right now is trying very hard to stop that.
Yeah, and if they're not going to support that decision, they certainly should not actively work against that decision, which is what we're fighting.
Yes, exactly. And Rick had mentioned this too as well. Like, whether you agree with it or not, what the government is doing wrong, terribly wrong, is taking away our choice.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Why not?
And that is wrong.
You know, right? Why not promote alcohol, tobacco, right? And have it all over our commercials. Like, if you pay into your CPP and you die before 65, your family doesn't get that CPP. You pay it. Now the government does. So let's get you to drink and let's get you to smoke, right? And maybe you won't make it, and the government will make money off of you, right? That's what I kind of think.
Exactly.
Like, they don't want you to live.
Yeah, that's
long. They don't want you to be healthy. They don't. Natural foods, because you're going to live longer, and that means they have to pay you longer.
You know, I recognize that
exactly.
The origins of professional sport are all about alcohol sales. That's what it was all about. The alcohol companies, the teams, but you know, in this day and age, with so many children and young people involved in watching these professional athletes, to see especially with the CFL, the alcohol commercials all over the place, and other NHL as well. I find that very, very disgusting that they have that going on, especially when you can't be advertising cannabis, you know, which maybe you should, in at least CBD, at least for its health benefits, if not to go out and use to get reps for Friday night, at least be able to promote and advertise the health benefits.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. They're not only taking away people's choices, but they're inhibiting people's choices. Like they're like I said, they're banning vitamins and natural, vitamins and all that kind of stuff now. So I mean, it makes you go, whoa, wait a minute. Like they want us sick. I mean, it's becoming so obvious. They want us sick and dead. Yeah. It seems like, because every bill that goes into our Senate seems to be geared towards doing exactly that. And then you got people like you who wrote, by the way, that was a beautifully crafted letter.
I'm astonished.
Well done.
No to that. I'm blown away that they could still refuse our application after what I presented to them. I don't know what to do now.
Well, no, you can tell it. You covered so many details. It was just like, it was clear as day. Everything was like, man, I mean, if you guys were where I am, I'd be coming to you looking for help to get some sleep at night for starters.
I wish you would.
And I'd feel safe, because I don't feel safe going to the drugstore now and trying to get it legally and save myself a few bucks. No, never again. And maybe the pesticides that they use and everything, right, could have had an effect as well. Who knows? But yeah, I mean,
drop me a line and I'll see what we can do about getting you some of what we have here.
Oh, that would be great.
You can find me on Facebook, Neigl Magnusson. Yeah. Just message me and we'll figure out something for you.
There's always a mail
Sounds
system.
good.
You can get up to 30 grams legally. You can share with people.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, like Rick could put that in somewhere that I don't, unless I could write it down. Maybe I could write it down here. Can you say that again?
I can put it in a banner. Yeah.
There. Rick is on my friends list, so you should be able to find us.
Maybe Google CSP.
Yeah, the Cannabis Substitution program.
That might do it.
Mm-hmm.
You can find me.
Yeah, I know quite a few seniors that struggle with sleep and stuff, and they've tried gummies and stuff, but it's a crapshoot because nobody knows. And you go into some of these stores, they've opened up just like a Starbucks on every corner.
I know.
It's just like just like a Starbucks in every corner. You walk in, sometimes you have staff who know what they're doing, and sometimes you have staff who do have no clue. They can't make a latte for the life of them, right? And you know what I mean? Like, so, I mean, that was the other problem, right? Like, I walked into several cannabis stores and said, these are the health things that I need to deal with. Number two were, one was pain and one was sleep, right? And many times I'd walk in and I'd get the blank look on their faces and, this is what's popular and blah, blah, blah.
Hey, it's funny you're talking about that. Okay, I haven't smoked a joint in probably 6 months till today. And you're talking about sleep, and look at me.
We thought maybe there's a freak snowstorm in Ontario there.
Hey, my son's room's so cold. It's so hot outside down here in southwestern Ontario. My son's room's so cold. They could have did a role for another Goodfellas movie where they find Carboni in the back of the meat truck. That's how cold it is down here. Like it.
Oh my God.
There's a lot of people jealous of you for that.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
There, I put a link to
well, I don't want to keep the phone.
I put a link to the Facebook page for these guys in the comments section
on Rumble or
YouTube, and I put it in Rumble as well. I'll put it in Rumble one more time, so it's in there twice.
Thank you, Rick.
Perfect. Really appreciate that. Thank you, because I get so little sleep over the last couple of years, just with stress and health and stuff and I know other people that aren't sleeping, and we all feel the same. We're terrified. We don't know who to trust and where to trust. And you guys definitely sound like you care and you know about what the heck you're talking about, which is quite refreshing.
Promise us you're not going to do anything more than the size of a piece of rice, okay? Just start low and go slow, all right?
Yeah.
All right, and then you
absolutely.
Yeah, and you'll probably go to sleep for 6 to 8 hours, and you'll wake up in the morning and you'll feel good. And even if you feel a little groggy in the morning, a hot shower always brings you out of it. Just stand in the hot shower.
Right. For me, it's ice cold water in a bucket.
You're a cold
I
water
stick
guy.
my head in cold water in the morning.
I stand there with the hot water pouring on my back.
Yeah.
And it just wakes me right up. So, yeah.
Well, I can tell you that the dosages that I got from the pharmacy, they weren't as small as a grain of rice. I can tell you that. And like I said, I'm really glad that I woke up after 2 days but you know, it was awful.
You know, Shoppers Drug Mart's not doing that anymore, right? They stopped that, They quit.
Well, it's a good thing. I live to tell the story, but who else?
Well, they're talking about, right? Like when a drug dealer gets involved with cannabis, you should be hiring guys like us.
No kidding. Like, holy cow. I'm glad to hear that, actually. That's good. Thank you for telling me.
I'm a certified herbalist. Casey's a master herbalist. Just got her degree in that. So.
Yep, she did.
But yeah, they should absolutely be much more into natural medicines. This whole the notion that we should be using synthesized molecules that mimic what the plants did for us for thousands, if not millions of years is still ludicrous. It needs to stop. You know, there's no medical chemical molecules that are allowed in our society here based on the Cannabis Act. Yeah. It's not medical. Yeah. They don't agree that there's any medical value.
No, they
crazy as can be.
Like, listen, guys.
Absolutely. They want us to have synthesized medication, and they want us to eat synthesized meat, too. It's getting ridiculous. No.
You get older.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to get you to wrap up. I've got some other callers waiting here.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for calling again tonight. Great call. Thank you.
No worries. Have a good night, everyone.
Okay, appreciate you. Take care. And here is Isabel. Go ahead.
Hi. It's very interesting. Very interesting. I know when my husband had cancer, it was horrible because he was a very robust steel worker. He started taking the green hull of the black walnut. And funny thing, after he had his chemo, he had 2 bouts of his chemo, which I hated it, watching him. But the funny thing was, when he took that green hull of the black walnut, we went in to see the oncologist in London, because I'm in Glencoe. And the oncologist looked at him, and the one statement he made, which almost made me fall over, he said, "I can't believe you survived this long." He said, "Most of my patients, 50% of them, are already gone, and you're still here." I thought, is that a pat on the back? Because that sounds like sarcasm to me. It's like you were hoping he'd be gone. I would never consent to anything like that. I was born under homeopathic. I was raised homeopathic. And now they want to take that away from us. And I'm furious. I'm absolutely furious, because I was diagnosed with 13 gallstones. It runs in my family. My mother had it. My older brother had it. My younger brother had it. And I was scheduled for surgery 3 months after being diagnosed. And I thought, I don't want to go under the knife. I'm petrified of going to a hospital, period. I started on a regimen of Cali Phos and natural salt from the homeopathic. And within 2 to 3 weeks, my gallstones were gone. When I went back after I was feeling good to the surgeon, they did another scan, and he looks at me with a question, and he said, "I don't understand." And I said, "Well, you're the doctor. You have to tell me." And he's like, "But your record says 13, but I can't find any." I said, "Oh." He said, "Well, what did you do?" I said, "Well, I took homeopathic." He looked at me and he said, "Well, I knew they had stuff that could dissolve them." I almost fell over. I take this little regimen of these 2 little pills. When I feel an attack, I take the pills and they dissolve under my tongue. There's no side effects. And now the government wants to take this away. They've already closed 2 homeopathics that I used to attend. And the reason that they had to give up their practice was because of the regimen of licensing that the government has brought in. Now they want to do away with it totally. I mean, my dogs, I have 2 small dogs. They're both under holistic care in London. They get a laser treatment and an infrared treatment. And my Chihuahua, couldn't walk. He looked like somebody had twisted him like a rag. When I took him to the emergency vet, it cost me $300 to $400 for a blood test, an x-ray. They couldn't find anything. So they said, well, you'll need an MRI. I said, what? How much is that? At that time, it was $1,500. I almost fell over. I said, I can't afford that. Well, don't you love your dog? Oh. My anger was like, so I had gone to, we used to have a health food store in London. It was called Lindive. And that's where I would get my homeopathic medication. When I spoke to the girl there, it's closed now, but when I spoke to her there, she said, across the street is a holistic vet. I took my dog to that vet that could not walk. And within 2 weeks, he had my dog up, walking and running. And all it was a herniated disc that a normal vet couldn't find. Again, the same principle. Pay us and we'll help you. Can't pay us, we don't help you. Wow. I mean, I can go, I don't anymore, but I did go to a family doctor. She would tell me, this is what's wrong or that's what's wrong. Oh, great. She said, well, we can write the script. No, you don't need to. She goes, you're going to go homeopathic. I said, yep. Now I know what you're telling me I got. I'm going to the homeopathic because your shit makes me sick. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's right there in your face. You look at the TV, take this, it'll resolve this, but you'll get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But I don't have those 6, but you're going to get those 6 conditions, but we're going to cure the first one. But we're going to kill you with the rest. I don't believe in it. I mean, I took CBD, thank God, to my daughter because I had a hip joint problem and the pain was like walking on the edge of a knife blade. It took 9 years to get in and get the surgery done because they kept putting me on a waiting list. And government funding runs out. Oh, well, we'll put you on another list. And that went on for 9 years.
And how did the CBD help you?
The CBD allowed me to sleep. It allowed me to walk fairly well. I mean, I still had the limp, but I wasn't getting the excruciating pain. And I tell you, I fought tooth and nail with my daughter, but she has Crohn's, severe Crohn's disease. And she takes the THC for hers, and she does it in a vape.
Yeah, in a vape, yeah.
Because she takes so many other pharmaceuticals. Like this girl has a gun cabinet full of pharmaceuticals that she has to take.
Wow.
And she took Humira. And the Humira, because it has citrate in it, she said it burns like red hot lava.
Wow.
And she has to take those injections once a week. And when she takes it, the whole area swells up like a baseball. And it's red. And she says, oh my God, this burns so bad. But they tell me this is what I need to survive. And she's only 38.
And how does the
Can I ask you a question about her injection? Does she use the regular syringe or does she use the spring-loaded syringe?
It's the spring-loaded one, but it still has. She was using the spring-loaded.
Yeah.
Now what they send her is just the regular syringe.
Yeah.
So her partner has to do it, but you can't go fast. You have to go
very slowly, and then it won't sting so much. It'll only sting just a little bit at the beginning, and then it doesn't hurt. Yeah, don't use the spring-loaded one.
And her partner has to literally squeeze her belly.
Yeah.
And she'll call me up and say, hey, it's shot night. I'm like, oh, okay. So she'll talk to me, but you can tell like her voice gets stronger, louder, and the yell will come. And it's like, oh.
Tell her to try putting it in like her thigh, on the top part of her thigh. It probably won't hurt as much. And use just a regular syringe, insert it just very, very slowly. Just put a little bit in, it'll sting just a bit, and then the rest of it won't hurt. The spring-loaded ones hurt a lot. I've used it myself. That's the trick. That's the trick. The spring loaded
Yeah.
ones, that's like beyond painful. That's like torture
Oh,
because it just
yeah,
jams
like
it in
she
so
said, it's
quickly.
like getting shot with a, yeah, it's like getting shot with a shotgun right on
It
your
is
leg.
terrible. It's terrible. Yeah.
I don't understand why we can't have the non-citrate here, because she'll post things on Facebook, and other people here will post how painful it is and how it burns, and people in the States are like, well, I don't know what you're talking about, but then they converse and they find out the one in the States doesn't have citrate in it.
Yeah. Well, that's
The
the
citrate is
trick.
what burns.
That's the trick to get through it. It'll make a world of difference for her. She won't scream anymore.
Yeah, I mean, to have to do this once a week, like I feel for her, because I don't have a lot of issues at my age.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I'm 71.
Yeah.
I'm 71, and that's all I take is my 4 pills, 2 of one and 2 of the other for my gallbladder. That's it. But what I have found since the Kool-Aid, I get a certain spot on my left arm inside my, like just down from my elbow.
Yep.
And it'll come up and it'll stay up for a couple of days and it'll go away. And then it'll come back a week or 2 later, same spot, same round dot, like somebody drew on it with a red pen, because I was dumb enough to take the Kool-Aid thinking I was saving my daughter. However, I'm really pissed about that. I am really pissed.
I'm glad you brought up the topic. I'm glad you brought up the topic about the animals, your dog, CBD. That's a whole nother segment.
Yeah.
A lot of people using CBD for their pets, and it's really working.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my holistic vet is somebody that I swear by for my dog. I mean, he's 13, and his daughter is sitting on my knee right now, little bugger. She's 12. And people look at them and go, they can't be. I said, well, they are. They are, but I mean, that's holistic.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, and I've never been one to say, okay, the dogs need this special kind of dog food. My dogs have always gotten the scraps, because I know what's in the scraps, because I eat those before I give it to them. And yet my dogs seem to be more healthy than other dogs. Like when I go to the vet the first time, and he said, how old is he going to be? And I said, he goes to turn 13. He's like, what? I said, yeah, he's going to be 13. I mean, I've had dogs live to their 21.
Maybe the dog food companies know that if they don't give your pets pure food, then they're going to get sick, which that in turn helps out the veterinarian office tell you that you need $1,500 for an MRI.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, green for the rule of most of these industries. Unfortunately, they got these things figured out. You know, I heard the latest scam here in Vancouver is that they figure out how to get loved ones to sort of tell fibs to the other loved ones to get some money because it's a good cause, and then they find out that they're being scammed. And so once they figure out they're being scammed, they call the scammers on it. The scammer goes away, but 3 or 4 days later, they phone back and say that they're law enforcement and they're there to help you get a hold of the scammers and get your money back for a fee. So that's the latest scam. You know, there's all these things going on, you know, that are just crazy, where government should be able to step in and do some regulating on those things that make sense. But this whole thing about regulating cannabis, especially CBD, but I mean, even THC, it's just a euphorant. You know, it's nothing that ever causes anybody any serious concern. This war on your ability to access this natural plant has been going on for 100 years in Canada. And the amount of damage that they've done, you know, we talked about how it helps people with their pets, you know, using CBD. There's so much of that going on, so many stories online. There's groups that have formed, and I've witnessed it myself. Old dogs on their last legs, they get some cannabis in them in the right way, and they're much, much better off. In any case, how many poor people that don't have access, that can't get access in a reasonable way, to cannabis have had to watch their animals suffer and die when they wouldn't have otherwise had to be like that. And that goes for humans as well, of course. But, you know, it's just the devastation of this attempt to prohibit our access to cannabis over the last 100 years has provided so much harm and cost to our society. It's incalculable for sure. Every time you turn around, you go, wow, you know, all these people would have been able to sleep properly if they'd been able to get proper access to some cannabis indica, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, on it goes. 100 years of this with no basis on it. Originally, they said it made people violent and insane. Emily Murphy's book in 1922, actually, it was what laid the groundwork for these prohibitions by talking about how cannabis made people violent and insane. You'd die a horrible death. It was terribly addicted. And then that went on for a while, and then they had studies into it and determined, well, no, it doesn't do any of that stuff. It makes you calm, relaxed, a little bit hungry. And at that point, you had all the propaganda about how it was a communist plot to flood our countries with cannabis or weed, you know, marijuana, so that all of our young people would be motivated. They wouldn't want to go to war, and they wouldn't be good citizens. And all that is BS as well. But, you know, this has caused so much harm over all of this time. It's mind-boggling that it's still continuing. But there's so much money involved that, you know, those levers of power, you know, they're just blatantly doing what they're doing without even worrying about the fallback or the blowback about it all, like we're doing here today. They don't care what we say. They don't care that I write a letter like that I'm putting all over the internet. And I did when I wrote it, that they're still going to say no to that with no logic behind it all. Their refusal it discounts most of the things that I said, that there wasn't enough detail for them. For example, about how we would have a licensed supply. Well, I don't know how much more detail you need. I mentioned, you know, you could just have some reasonable standards and our current suppliers can just do what they're doing. Well, I guess that's not doable, not enough details. Or, you know, you could have your licensed producers that have to destroy product right now that's regulated, grown according to your standards, because I guess it must be all about safety. That's about all that makes any sense to me, is that they don't want us to use a non-regulated supply, all about safety, although we've demonstrated that our supply is safe. But give us some of that safe supply that you got instead of having it destroyed, so that we can help the vulnerable people that don't have the ability to help themselves through other channels. That's who we're talking about here. We're begging the government to allow us to continue to help these poor disenfranchised souls that are living in poverty, and they're living with addiction and all of these other drivers of these things, all the depression, the PTSD that they suffer, the serious illnesses, the cancers that are in this neighborhood, all these poor suffering people. They just want a little bit of access to something that will help them, which we're trying to give them, and the government's not going to allow that. Because of what? Our supply is not safe, or they're just not getting enough money off it. It's all about money, I'm sorry to tell you. Sorry to rant, but
it is all about money. But the reason that they want to license the hard drugs is because they know people are going to overdose. Hey, we're going to get our quota of deaths right there. Let's keep that going. Not do this. Like in the States now, I hear they want to legalize the psychedelics. Well, we know what the psychedelics did in the 60s.
What did they do?
I mean, you got the wrong ones. You had people that said they could fly off the Peace Tower in London, or in Ottawa.
Yeah, that was fairly rare. The actual deaths from psychedelics are really, really low, like almost non-existent. Those were a bunch of fear campaigns about people, you know, being in a bathtub and deciding to iron their pants or whatever it was. Some of that might have happened, and absolutely, you do not want to be trying to operate heavy machinery or drive a car.
No.
One of the psychedelics for sure, but they've been demonized as well, and they are absolutely useful tools for people that suffer with addiction and depression and other things, especially the psilocybin, even the LSD, the DMT, ayahuasca. These are very powerful tools when used properly, and they should not be withheld from public access as well.
No, they shouldn't. But why are they allowing those to come back on the market when they know that this is safe? The cannabis is safe, but we can't do that because they're not going to make enough money off of it.
Yeah, it's
but
all
if
about
they
money.
allow the fentanyl and all this other stuff, well, we're going to get our quota, because you know what? These people are going to pass away, because you can see the zombies in the States that are walking around on hard drugs. And it just blows my mind. And I'm like, wow. I mean, I see it in London. thank God I'm in a small town. We don't see that here. We've got like 2,000 people here in Glencoe. I've yet to see a zombie walking around.
But you go to London and you see it.
I'll tell you, I grew up in London, and you never saw, very much of that at all when I was a kid. But that city has sure changed.
For a brief time, well, not actually brief, for over a year, we had a cannabis substitution chapter in London. It's just on hiatus right now because the fellow that took over from Mary that got it started and then had to move to Winnipeg, he's had some financial difficulties, so he's had to pull back for the last month or so. But yeah, we did have a program going there, and there was a big demand for it as well.
Yeah,
listen, it's very unfortunate.
We had the Cauldron here in Glencoe. We had one open last year. It's called the Cauldron, and he's on Main Street. I mean, Main Street's all of 2 blocks. But
what do they offer there?
And he has cannabis, and he has oils, he has vapes, he has the gummies. I've been in there to see the store.
Is it a legal store?
Yeah, I think it's called the Cannabis Cauldron or the Cauldron.
I see.
Now he just opened last year, and I mean, I don't. If he's licensed, probably. Because his door, like the sign is there, we're open from 11 till 6 or 11 till 5 some days. And it being a small town, I mean, it'd be very noticeable. I went to London recently, and I used to work in London up until 2020. What I see in London now is scary, man.
Yeah.
It's scary. My son drives the LTC in London, and he sent me a little video one night because he works night shift. And this guy's walking down York Street with not a stitch on. Not a stitch on. My son's going, I got to send this to my mom.
What a good boy.
All he had on was a toque and a parachute.
Was it Pride Month?
No, it wasn't Pride Month. Actually, it was like October.
October, cold.
I hope it made you
Well, we better wrap up here. Isabel, any final thoughts? We have to get to the next caller.
I think it has to be a choice, but the government's not going to make a penny out of this, and that's why they're squashing it. When I moved here in '57, homeopathic was illegal. It was an illegal conception. Now they let us have it. Now they're going to take it away again. And I'll fight tooth and nail. I'll buy it online if I have to from the States, which is what I've been doing, and I will continue to do it. But I'm not going to stop taking homeopathic. But I wish you guys well, and I thank you very much for this opportunity, Rick.
Thank you,
Your
Isabel.
show is awesome. I watch you every night.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Isabel.
Bye-bye.
Okay. All right, let's get to our next caller. Go ahead. Who are we talking to?
My name is Chaplain Paul, and I'm calling from Phoenix, Arizona. I've been a healthcare activist for over 25 years, and I'm classified as a volunteer Christian community chaplain serving in long-term ministry for over 14 years. And what you're talking about is right up my alley. I originally was going to ask the question and inform you guys that there is no medical marijuana allowed in long-term care facilities, and there is no homeopathic option for these patients. So they go without. And the reason why is Big Pharma, their bread and butter is psych meds and antidepressants. So in my experience, there's patients that are waiting 6 and 7 hours to be changed, patients waiting all night long to be changed. And what you have here is you have cause and effect. You have less staff at night and on the weekends, which causes more wait time. More wait time means more heightened anxiety, worry, doubt, fear, depression, anger. And the only method of treatment when you have those symptoms is with psych meds and antidepressants. Okay, so it's one big circle of misery for these people. And I've been fighting tooth and nail to improve the safety and quality of care in these facilities. I've testified in front of the state Senate out here. There are no laws that protect these patients from being neglected, abused, and mistreated by not being changed in a timely manner or cared for in a timely manner. I'm fighting tooth and nail to change that. But my question to you guys is, why isn't your industry more vocal about this? Why aren't you fighting to make sure that these patients, long-term care patients nationwide, have access to medical marijuana and to holistic treatment? Because it's just absolutely, it's heartbreaking. What's happening in these facilities is absolutely tragic. Like I said, patients waiting all night long to be changed. Patients waiting 6 and 7 hours to be changed. Pastor Sean, who just died on January 2nd, is probably one of the best friends I ever had. He was in the facility where I go for 3 years. This poor man had to deal with E. coli, MRSA, bed sores, infections, painful blisters, kidney stones that weren't being treated properly, blood clots in his legs. He had to have his toes amputated because the wound team didn't treat an infection in his foot. Every day they would come in, he'd say, "How's my foot? How's my foot?" They'd say, "It's okay, it's okay." It wasn't okay. He had to have his toes amputated, and he went into a coma, and I went to the hospital every day until his wife got down here from Oregon, and the man died on January 2nd as a direct result of neglect, abuse, and mistreatment because they weren't treating the kidney stones in his kidneys, and they put 2 stents in, and it went sepsis, and he died. And so I'm just letting you guys know that there needs to be more attention on long-term care so that they could get medical marijuana treatment, be able to do that in these facilities. Are you still there?
Oh, yeah, and there is some work being done with that.
Okay.
One of the legacy dispensaries, one of the original ones here in Vancouver, has done a fair bit of work within care homes and trying to further that issue and speaking and presenting to these different boards. Lots more needs to be done, 100%, and in treatment as well. Lots more needs to be done with that. In some jurisdiction in the States, I saw it in the paper this morning, some major city, I'm not sure which one, there's $100 million fine levied against them for the abuse and the negligence with respect to the care homes. Did you have anything to do with that?
No, I was instrumental in reopening the doors here in Arizona. What happened was when the lockdowns came, all non-staff members of clergy and family were locked out. See, in Arizona, you have the law is all hospitals and all prisons have clergy, chaplains, but all medical rehabs, nursing homes, care centers, those facilities do not. It's all done by, the patient requests somebody to come in or the family members, and you just come in and you sign in and you go in. Well, when the lockdowns happened, we were all locked out. So I had patients that were placed in isolation for over a year in their room. For over a year without any visits at all. That's a major civil rights violation. Any elected official who remains silent and didn't stand up to fight for our civil rights, especially in long-term care, needs to resign because they broke their oath of office. We cannot allow people to be elected into office that are not willing to place their own careers, personal injury, ridicule, or even prison and death on the line to stand up and fight for our civil rights. We cannot allow that because what happened subsequently, millions of long-term care patients died all alone in isolation. I fought for over a year to reopen those doors. Excuse me?
Here too, in Canada as well.
Okay, I fought for a year to reopen those doors. I got in touch with State Senator Kate McGee, who chaired the Health and Human Services Committee out here. And she didn't realize what was going on. She didn't realize what our function was. I said, you need to reclassify us as being essential caregivers. At least one healthy screen family member and clergy allowed in 2 or 3 times a week to make sure the patients are being cared for properly, make sure that their medical wishes are being honored, making sure they're receiving the love and compassion and hands-on love that we all need in order to have a fighting chance for survival. And she listened, talked to the governor, had those regulations changed, and reopen the state. Well, how do I know that? Because I was in contact with her office. I needed that piece of paper to get back into the facility where I go with Pastor Ken, who's 80 years old. And once I had that paper, those Health and Human Services guidelines allowing visits, I called the facility where I serve, and their administrative said, no, we're not allowing visits. And I was on the phone with them for quite a while. Then I called the regional compliance director for the entire Southwest for the parent company, and they were hemming and hawing. And I finally said this. I said, look, On Monday morning, me and Pastor Ken are coming down the facility. We're going in to see Pastor Sean. If you don't allow us to come in, we're going to immediately file a complaint with the long-term care licensing department, at which point a surveyor is going to come out on site, show that you're out of compliance, and your facility is going to be heavily fined. And within 1 hour, we worked out a visitation plan. That's the type of activism and courage we all need as citizens. Because I'll tell you right now, there's facilities, even though they changed those regulations, we're still telling people, oh no, we're not having visits. We're not having visits. Well, that's why we have to be more involved. That's why we have to know the law, know the regulations, so that we can have them in our hand and stand up for our civil rights so that we're not taken advantage of. That's the deal. Now, there's a saying, if we're educated, we're equal. If not, we're a victim. And then there's Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct our paths. This is the key. That woman that just hung up, she said something very interesting. When confronted the doctor about holistic methods, he said, oh yeah, I know about that. Well, if he knew about it, why didn't he tell her? He didn't tell her because there's no money in it. The doctors are the whores of big pharma. Okay, and they do what big pharma tells them to do. This is why it's so important to know what we're eating, what we're feeding our dogs, what we're injecting into our bodies, because it's all designed to make us sick, because they don't make any money on healthy people. And that's a fact. I'm sorry to tell you, but that's the way it is.
You can still be healthy, though.
Great call. Where are you from? Are you from Arizona?
I moved to Arizona when I was 14. And I'm 60 right now.
What's
and
the
I
law
moved from
like?
Connecticut. Huh?
Oh, you're in Connecticut now?
No, I moved from Connecticut in 1976 to Scottsdale, Arizona. I live in Phoenix now. My parents were very poorly treated by our healthcare system before they died in the 90s. They were lied to, ripped off, and basically raped by our healthcare system. So I subsequently became a healthcare activist, and then I did 2 years in Kingman State Prison on a drug charge. As a matter of fact, I was in the marijuana business, so we got a lot in common. I happened to go to prison for it, but the deal is,
In the prison too, several times.
So the deal is that while I was there, God lifted me up as a pod pastor and head pastor of the South Yard. And when I got out, I went to a 2-year extensive chaplaincy program. I've been in nursing home ministry, long-term care ministry ever since, all voluntary. And I've had, over the last 2 years, I lost over 20 people that I love dearly, and my 2 dogs died, and many others. Patients I love dearly died all alone in isolation. I will continue fighting this fight until hell freezes over, because I lost.
What's your laws like in Arizona?
What's what?
The laws, your state laws on cannabis.
It's legal. It was just medical marijuana, and then you had to get a medical marijuana card for like $350 a year, and now it's legal. Okay, it's legal in Arizona, but my patients that I visit can't get access to it. That's ridiculous. That is absolutely 100%. You have a legal product, okay, that you can buy, you can have delivered to the facility, but yet they're not allowed to have medical marijuana that will help them to sleep, give them an appetite, help them to digest food, calm them down so they don't need the psych meds and antidepressants that are killing them and basically destroying their organs. But no, they can't have access to that because there's no money in it. So that's why the industry needs to be more vocal and say, look, it's legal. These patients should have a right to this type of treatment, and they shouldn't be denied that treatment. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
I got to say, Rick, this is probably one of the best callers I've heard on here.
Yeah, absolutely. Leo, your microphone is, I don't think, operating properly. I think you're using you're using the mic on your headset.
The mic, can you hear me now?
Wait, we can hear you, but you're off mic.
What's that mean?
It means that probably in the settings you've switched over to like your webcam microphone instead of the microphone on your headset.
Gotcha.
And my contention is that not only should you be able to access these things that will help you in the ways that you described in these care homes, but you know, you shouldn't be made a criminal trying to access it. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, be careful.
Okay, the deal is. Sorry, go ahead.
No, they can't hear me.
The deal is that the deal is this, that holistic methods of healing and medical marijuana, it's legal. See, once you go into long-term care in America, guess what? You're now a slave to big pharma. You're now a prisoner in these facilities. Unless you know how to navigate effectively through American healthcare, you'll be led like sheep to the slaughter. That's how they got it designed. You have got to know what your options are. You've got to know what your treatment are. You have to be selective. You go into American healthcare, and right away, the primary care physician orders a stream of tests by what do you call people come in and I forget the word I'm looking for, but they order a stream of tests, okay? And the deal is that you don't need that. My mother, they wanted to do testing on her leg, and she had a colostomy bag, and they wanted to do exploratory surgery. Well, she had lung cancer, and you could see on the X-ray that the cancer was building in her lungs like a web, and she only had a couple of days left to live, even a week to live. I took the doctor outside, who was a young guy, and I said, look, you're not going to have my mother go through this undue stress with these tests. And he broke down and started crying in front of me. I've had doctors, when I put them in their place, break down and cry in front of me, okay, because they know they were damn wrong. I forgot the word of when they call specialists. All right, you go into American healthcare, you got something wrong with your leg. Oh, guess what? We got to order 15 specialists to come in. We want to be safe than sorry. It took me years. That's a strong argument. You want to be safe than sorry, right? Well, I finally figured out a response to that. I'd rather have peace of mind than be turned into a pincushion for greed and profit. I want to be selective. I don't need this. I don't need all of these tests. I need you to focus on the problem, because what they do is they just rake you over the coals. And it's just, and like I said, millions of patients in America died all alone in isolation. That was a major civil rights violation. Okay. Nobody stood up and did it. Very few people were vocal about this. It's very horrifying that our founding fathers, the civil rights movement with Martin Luther King, people died so that we can have these rights. Now we're a couple of generations later, and people are too scared to even leave their house. They don't want to be vocal. They don't want to risk any ridicule, any personal injury, jail, imprisonment, or death fighting for their civil rights. They'd rather say, hey, look, here, I'll hand over my civil rights. Just let us keep our stuff. Well, that's what they want us to do. Here's a bunch of stuff. Give us your civil rights, and then we'll just set you into slavery. And that's what's happening all over the world. People need to understand this. It's not a game. Okay, your freedoms, my freedoms, they mean something to us. If we don't stand up now and fight for our civil rights and our freedoms, our children and grandchildren will be set into slavery, guaranteed. Okay, so we've got to say, hey, enough is enough. We need to fight for those that are suffering. We need to stand up and say enough is enough. And that's what I'm doing every single day. That's what I'm doing. On my own, God is with me and I have people around me, but the fact of the matter is I'm not rich. I'm in debt. COVID put my family $50,000 in the hole because of COVID. Okay. Being locked up in our homes and we couldn't make a living. And our credit card debt was exploded because of COVID and the lockdowns. Well, where's the compensation for that? These are civil rights violations that were not addressed properly. So, I could go on and on and on about our pets. That woman was talking about our pets. We could go on and on about supplements that are now been compromised. Read the label on your supplements that we're taking. Go look. You think it's all pure, 100% pure. Read the fine print. There are harmful additives now in our supplements that we need to be wise about. That's about all I got to say.
Many of the big supplement companies have been bought out by pharmaceutical companies and pharmaceutical interests. So they're compromised in that way as well.
And also in the slavery thing, I saw the movie that you guys had the show about last night.
Yep.
And one of the titles was that there's more people in slavery right now than there ever was when slavery was around. Right now, there's over 1 million children in slavery and stuff like that. So I happened to see that movie last night. I know that you guys were talking about it from the Angel, the Sound of Freedom.
That's another show.
I got to say, you're very educated. Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, you're still off mic, but just lean in closer to your camera. You're on the camera mic. That's what it is.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, just speak really loud.
Okay. This caller here is proof that the prison system works. Okay, he went in and listen to how educated he is when he came out. Rehabilitation works, my friend. Smart man.
Hang on. Let me interject. It's not the prison system. It's the power of God. The power of God is what works. Okay, God, and another thing, I didn't find God in prison. He found me. A lost sheep doesn't find their shepherd. The shepherd finds the lost sheep. God lifted me up from the dirt. Okay, and I witnessed miracle after miracle in prison. Inmates healed of diabetes, hep C, cancer, relationships restored, money falling out of nowhere. Miracle after miracle after miracle, to such a degree, he removed all doubt of his glorious existence. And to equate all of them as mere coincidence in the absence of the divine interactions of God would have to be a statistical impossibility. So this is what we're talking about here. It is, okay, the prison system, hey, look, it doesn't work unless God's hand is in it. God is the one that changed me. Okay, I was, back in the day, I was drinking, I was partying, and only the power of God. I don't have any urge to have a drink or drugs or anything, and only the power of God can do that. So that's your sermon. And hey, look, you got the chaplain Paul, and then you got the activist Paul, all in one phone call here. All I could say to you, gentlemen, if you're up in Canada, keep fighting for your freedoms.
We are.
I mean, my God. Okay, the truck drivers, what did they do? They took away their trucks. They took away their homes. Canada is supposed to be the place where the Americans go to get away. We can't even go to Canada anymore because it's not even free. It's like an extension of China. Why don't we just call it Canada, China, or China. China. There you go, China.
That is accurate. It is the Canadian government is a corporation registered as such, and we're dealing with a corporation that thinks they own us and has the ability to make whatever laws they want that satisfy their needs and their interests. It's not good. We need to reset this. We need to have a different way of democracy here than what we have, something that's limited and transparent, where they're accountable, where they really understand that it's the rights of each individual citizen that they're paid to protect, not the rights and the greed of these corporations that want to exploit us the way that they are.
Tell everybody in Canada who's not in a critical position. I'm not talking about, people like in hospitals or the fire department or the police. People, every normal people, tell them to just stay home for a change. Just tell them to sit on their butts in the house for a month or a week or as long as you can, because then the government would crumble. Okay, and then you don't have to do nothing. Just stay home. I mean, can we at least get people to just stay home? Can we get them to sacrifice that? Just stay home for like a month. Okay, the majority of people in Canada just stay home for a month and watch what happens. The whole government would collapse.
I think it would take about seven minutes for that to happen in Canada.
And there's always the people who are sleeping to follow the rules anyways, right?
Getting more and more difficult.
Well, listen, I'm gonna let you guys go because I don't want to hold up the next person. And who's ever next, thank you for listening to Chaplain Paul's rant.
Well, hang on just a second, Chaplain Paul. We have a little thing we do around here, and when somebody is like, when somebody uses their superpowers for good and not evil, we knight them. So I hear. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this because you're on the phone system, but you just hold tight. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to come back. We're going to knight you. Here you are.
I could see on my computer.
All right.
I could see on. I got the sound off because I'm on the phone. But let me just say this. I wrote a series of books called Chaplain America. So you're talking to Chaplain America here. So, okay, can I plug my website before you knight me?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay, my website is Miracles of Kingman, KINGMAN.com. Miraclesofkingman.com. All of my books are free as PDF files. So my books are on that website, and then there's PDF files scattered throughout the website of my poems, stories, how to protect yourself in American healthcare, my family story, healthcare, an American heartache, and many other stories. Fumba the Elephant, and a lot of the other stories are on there. That are on that website. So there we go. Thank you for letting me do that.
All right.
Hey, Rick, have you ever ignited two people at once?
I have, but no,
Have I what?
you guys get it later. Right now, we do this one. We're coming back to you.
This guy you need to get on your show, Rick.
Yeah, I was taking note
His
of that.
info.
I'm taking
guy
down
knows
his
his
phone
shit.
number. We're going to get him back on for sure. Okay, Chaplain Paul, I hereby knight thee.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
You're the sir. Yeah.
We, the Maverick family.
So now I'm knighted by your show. That's how. Oh, cool.
Courage
I see it.
and devotion to freedom
Okay.
and truth. Become a
I
shining
like that. Oh,
example
he's doing
to the people
backflips
of
and
our
everything. That's
world
me.
and
I,
the
that's
Maverick
that's how I
universe.
dance when I pray for
Maverick
a patient and they're healed, or I go and visit a patient and they're depressed. They're dealing with worry, doubt, fear, depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, and I leave the room and they're at a better place mentally, spiritually, emotionally. That's how I dance when I leave their room, because I know that I was able to help them get through a serious time. So there you go.
Well, now you're an official member of the Maverick family, and you are an official knight. Thank you.
Wow.
And I've taken a note of your phone number, and I'm going to contact you down the road, and we're going to get you back on here for a feature interview.
Well, I got about 6 months worth of stuff all crammed. So whatever you want to talk about. No, really. I mean, we could talk about how with my deal is healthcare.
Yeah.
My deal is fighting for these people that have no voice. The patients that I visit are coma, semi-coma, on life support. They are paralyzed. They are have to have dialysis. Very few are able to move around the facility, and so I fight for them every day. I could not go and look these people in the face and not fight for them. What's happening and the way that they're being treated is unacceptable. These are the people that raised us. What I tell people is, the guy down at the grocery store. Okay, the guy down at the grocery store, he may have a little bit of a mental health deficit. He bagged our groceries for the last 40 years. Okay, always with a kind word and a smile. He'll help you bring your groceries to the car. Out here, when it's 110 degrees, he'll run across the parking lot to get your cart. All right. Now this man winds up, sick. Winds up in one of these facilities, and he's all alone, fending for himself. Is that the way we treat people as a society? The people, our veterans, our police, our fire, our neighbors, our coworkers. Is that how we're going to treat people? They get sick, and now they're in these facilities all by themselves, fending for themselves, being loaded up on psych meds and antidepressants until they don't even know what day it is, as society just goes off and pretends that it's never going to happen to them. But the fact is that unless we die a sudden death, there is a bed, a long-term care bed with each of our names on it. And if we don't stand up and fight now, we're going to be laying in that bed someday. And I don't want to be the guy yelling in the middle of the night for help and nobody shows up. I don't want to be that guy. And I don't think any of you or your listeners want to be that person. So we have to be more vocal, and we have to fight for these people. And we have to say enough is enough. These people need to be treated humanely. So that's my gig. That's all I got to say for now. And I wish you guys the best. May God bless all of you and watch over you. And I wish you, the very best. And we'll talk soon. Okay.
Thank you very much, Chaplain Paul. That's one of the most important phone calls we've had all year by far. Thank you.
Yeah, well, for me,
I'll talk to you guys soon. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
I know
For me,
we
it
All right,
means
take care.
that-
Bye-bye.
Paul.
Oh,
Thank you.
I don't get to
take,
retire.
take care. Bye-bye.
we'll be hearing more of him.
Bye-bye.
And again, I think right away. No, for me, it means that I don't get to retire after I finish my battle with the federal government here, which I still believe we're going to win. This is not the end, getting this final refusal from them. We'll see them in court for sure coming up in October, and we're probably going to, sue them in court ahead of time to try to get an injunction against any interference with us until that time. But apparently now, after that's done, I've got to become a healthcare activist and work about the care homes that I'm well on my way to heading to, so that by the time I get there, I can have some cannabis when I'm there.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks a lot, Sir Paul.
Yeah. So, gentlemen, it's now 9:18 p.m. So I'll just throw it over to you guys for some final thoughts.
I'll go first.
Go ahead.
Oh man, I don't know. Just really happy that you had us on the program. For people who want to know more about what's going on with us, you can follow us through the Cannabis Substitution program and through the THC show on Pot TV. We live stream at 4 o'clock every Tuesday. We're going on for 4 years now, coming right up. We're just about to do our 200th show. And, we'll see where we go from here. But this is a big step in the process to get that refusal from Health Canada. I think that needs to mean that those people around us that have been monitoring what's going on here in the media, in other positions of influence, now we need you. Now we need to, put up a united front and demand that this program that we're running here does not get shut down. It would be devastating to myself, but so much more devastating to so many of the hundreds of people that have learned to rely on us here in this neighborhood. The government at Health Canada, that this can't happen. I can't believe that they would allow this to happen. They've never even been here to see what it is that's going on. I don't know what credentials they have as decision makers in a case like this. Somewhere back in Ottawa, they get to decide what's going to happen on the downtown east side without ever having come here. And who are they anyway? There's certainly nobody that seems to really get what we're doing, and they don't seem to have any type of a heart at all. They seem to be very steeled to the idea that they can't allow for low barrier access and put that competition there with their whole model of how to sell cannabis to people in Canada here. It's a real shame that we have to do it this way and see them in the courts at this point and continue on under increasing risk now. I worry that they've sent this decision to other people and now they're going to act upon us to close us down. We'll see what happens. But the fight has just begun, I think.
And I think Canada and the U.S. need a legalization program that works for everybody.
Yes.
Right? We have it here and all across our provinces. It's whereas in the States, there's some states that are it's legal and some that are not. You guys need to get on board, have it legal across, and have it legal so that people can use it even in low barrier access.
Yeah, I was going to say wells, not well, but wells. We have legalization, but we certainly don't have a low barrier access, and that is what we need 100%.
The world needs it. Everybody needs it. Rich, poor, healthy, sick. We all need cannabis.
Certainly no justification for not allowing it or not having it for sure. No need to spend, precious tax dollars on trying to restrict people's access to a plant that's only going to help them. We live in a world with alcohol, for God's sakes, and commercial tobacco and other things that, the stupid things, the sugar that they have in foods and the processed foods that we're more than welcome to go and eat and consume, but they don't want you to consume cannabis, which has none of those side effects and harmful properties that those other things I just mentioned do. And they're spending all kinds of our money to make sure that we don't have proper access to it. It is really cruel and unusual punishment to the most disadvantaged Canadians that there are.
Okay.
Right on. That, my friends, might be more harmful than marijuana water.
Most things are.
Yeah.
Right. I want to thank Rick. Rick, great show you put on. Glenn, Neil, and Paul, you guys got three of the biggest kahunas I've ever seen. Okay, on any show, you guys got a lot of spirit, a lot of knowledge. I'm sure we'll be back on this topic soon enough, Rick.
And now it's time tonight, Glenn and Neil.
Thank you. Hey, we better watch it over here.
Honored.
We, the
Yeah,
Maverick
we're getting
family,
invited.
do hereby dub the unofficial Maverick Night.
That's big, man.
Freedom
Have to
fighter
wear the armor, 'cause that
extraordinaire.
stuff's
May
heavy.
your
Oh,
courage
I missed
and
it.
devotion to freedom and
We're
truth
back to the
become a
show.
But this
shining
is
example
a
to the
unique,
people of our
unique
world
show.
and the Maverick
I don't see any other
universe.
shows out there where people are calling in from all
Maverick
over the world.
News.
Okay?
Will there be
The
a
world
nighted
is
party
watching.
in Ontario somewhere, Rick? Get all the nights together.
You'd have to,
There you go, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
Sir
Thank you,
Neil and
guys.
Sir Glenn. Thank you, gentlemen.
And
Great.
Leo, I think it's 24 liters of water that is at the LD50 level of what can kill an average, or 50% of average people.
Wow.
Cannabis can't do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, water has a much easier attainable LD50 level than does cannabis.
I can't wait to get back on with you guys.
We would be very happy to come back on.
Salute.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Okay,
Thank you, sir.
folks. And with that, I'm going to go solo here to close out the show. And thank you, everybody, for joining us here on the program tonight. I'll just bring up this banner here. Here we go. Just a reminder to like, share, subscribe. You can also support the channel by donating at freedomreporters.com. We certainly do need the help. It pays for the phone systems, the software, the subscriptions, all kinds of different expenses that we have here. So it keeps the lights on, essentially. Or you can also donate at maverickdonations.com. And we will be back tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And what am I going to click on here at the end? Oh, yes, this one right over here. That's what I'm looking for. And I'll be looking for you tomorrow night on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.